reinforce his fantasy. He used to believe in something would happen. Meals for liberty. Gnostic sex cult, building his own world. A Gnostic sex cult, unhinged from reality. Totally lost it. What can we do? The mocking relentlessly. It's not a Gnostic sex cult, James. No, it's not. Stop lying to your audience. No, it's not. It's not Gnostic, James. And grip Mary Nardini, he tells us queer liberation means the annihilation of capitalism. Catch up, James. Whiteness means capitalism. Queer theory hates capitalism. Whiteness means capitalism. Queer theory hates capitalism. Whiteness means capitalism. It's all about capitalism. Everyone knows it's capitalism. The socialists know it's capitalism. Wake up, James. It's capitalism. Whoa. The socialists know it's capitalism. Wake up, James. It's capitalism. It's all about capitalism. Everyone knows it's capitalism. The socialists know it's capitalism. Wake up, James. It's capitalism. It's capitalism. To pocket all that money from the mills for liberty. The left hates capitalism, but James won't admit it. He refuses to believe queer theory stabilizes normativity. Gender binary and the nuclear family. But James blocks the truth, smears people who try to show him, creates an echo chamber for himself to reinforce his fantasy. Is to believe in something. What happens for liberty? Gnostic sex cult, building his own world. Gnostic sex cult, unhinged from reality. He's totally lost it. What can we do but mock him relentlessly?
What up, guys? It's late night. Aaron, had you not heard my song yet? I mean, no big deal, but if you like the song Gnostic Sex Cult that I created using AI music at 2 a.m. a couple weeks ago, you can download it on Spotify. James Lindsay is thrilled. You can download it on Spotify and on Apple Music. All you need to, and it's other places too, apparently. And all you need to do is look up Gnostic Sex Cult, and it'll pop right up. Can I see without my glasses? Yeah, I can see. I can see. I can see. I don't need. Well, I mean, I can see perfectly. Well, pretty much perfectly fine. I mean, I don't know. Glasses are really more for distance stuff. It just depends. It depends on what I'm looking at. And tonight, I don't actually need to read anything. I was actually thinking about wearing my sunglasses. I was like, oh, God, my eyes look awful. I was like, I'm going to wear my sunglasses at night. But no. I was laying around for a couple hours. You guys are saying, I'm not even wearing makeup now. Oh, God, I look awful. Oh, God. Fucking no makeup. No makeup stream at 1 a.m. No big deal. You were a Gnostic Sex Cult anthem virgin? I'm so glad I got to pop your cherry, darling. I'm so glad. See, now I'm going to blush. Oh, thank you, Joseph. Thank you. I mean, I did, and then I laid down for a little while, and I'm not high anymore, but I did after my stream earlier. All right, guys, we have a couple orders of business here tonight. Now, I don't know if my first order of business is actually going to happen because Nick Fuentes said he was going to go live around 10 p.m., which is around 11 p.m. my time because he's in Chicago. And it's now almost 1 a.m., which means that no, I did not smoke an entire blunt. No, I did not smoke a whole thing. So that means so if Nick says he's going to go live at around 11 p.m., really we're nearing the time around when Nick might actually go live, which is maybe around 1 to 2 a.m. my time, which you always got to factor in that after Nick says he's going to go live, he usually falls asleep or something like that. So you have to factor in a little padding. But who knows if he's actually going to wake up or not. And I would like to, if Nick does go live tonight, I would actually like to cut away to that because there was something. Did you guys get wind of this? Did everyone hear about what happened on Cozy yesterday? So apparently, this isn't funny. It's deeply, deeply serious. We must never laugh. Apparently on Cozy yesterday, after Nick's show, someone hacked his website just on Cozy, not on Rumble. And right after Nick went off the air on his show, they hacked into his feed and they played gay porn on Nick's Cozy channel. And Nick apparently has receipts that this was exactly who you think it was. And and he said in his Telegram that he was going to go live tonight on Rumble to talk about it, and they're still investigating the issue. And so if Nick goes live on Rumble, I do actually want to hear what he has to say. And listen, man, I don't think that was Nick's porn. I think that you're kind of stupid if you think that was actually his, because just the way that streaming works, it's that's not how streaming tools work, right? So it's obviously something went awry. But I do want to hear what he has to say about it if he goes live. Anyway, but what I actually want to watch is this. I wanted to watch this earlier, but I was like, I'm not getting up at 10 a.m. That's just not gonna happen. I was actually awake at 10 a.m., but I was laying in bed messing around on Twitter, and I don't get out of bed at 10 a.m. I work until 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning. I don't get out of bed to be streaming by 10 a.m. That time is just really inconvenient, okay? But I do want to watch this. This is an episode of well, I don't actually care about watching it for Tim, to be honest. And actually we'll probably find Tim the most annoying of anyone on this panel. But Tim did an episode of this show today where it was Lauren Chen and Just Pearly Things and Isabella Moody, who has kind of been not on social media ever since she posted a video on Twitter of her baby saying the N-word, which I miss Isabella Moody on Twitter. I really do. Listen, I know she's a pain in the ass, and I know she posted a picture of her baby saying the N-word, but Isabella Moody is really funny, and I miss her on Twitter so much, and I want her to come back on Twitter. And so I'm happy that she was. Yeah, it did. Well, okay, no, the baby was babbling. And the baby said 2 syllables that kind of sounded like the N-word. And Isabella and her husband, being that they're young and stupid, took a video of it and posted it on Twitter. And wouldn't you know it, but a video. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And wouldn't you know it, but a video of a 6-month-old white baby saying the N-word pissed off a lot of Black people. And so, I think, at first it started going viral, and then they got up to 10 million views on it or something like that. And then both of them decided it would be better to deactivate their Twitter accounts for a little while. But I miss Isabella on Twitter, and I hope she comes back soon. Rachel Wilson is also in this, who I mostly just find annoying. And like, I don't know why even Rachel Wilson is in this discussion, because hasn't Rachel Wilson had kids with like 3 different men? So I don't know why she's even pretending to be a trad wife. Anyway, this is what I want to watch tonight. Now, before we get into that, I was notified by Stony Baloney, Human Centipede. I just want to put this out there. I just want everyone to remember. I just want everyone to be aware of this. Of course, Logan Lansing is the BFF of James Lindsay, and they wrote a whole book about queer theory in which they didn't mention capitalism once, and they're very proud of the fact that they didn't mention capitalism. But Logan tweeted this earlier tonight, and I just think it's well, I think the word choice is fascinating. I think the word choice is just fascinating. Logan says, has and particularly ironic given the subject that Logan is tweeting, has the plagiarism scandal targeted the academics most responsible for Marxist gain of function found in the various critical studies departments. When you break it down, there's really only 3 to 5 biggies for each discipline. Might be fruitful. Now, of course, Logan Lansing has no fucking clue what he's talking about. But I just think it's a little funny. I just think it's a little funny that we literally coined this term on a live stream that I did. When did I do that stream? A couple weeks ago. You can go back and watch it. I'm pretty sure it's linked in this article, or at least the clip is, but we can go back and find the full stream if we want to. I just think it's a little funny that all of a sudden, James Lindsay's BFF is using the term gain of function Marxism. Now, of course, he's not using it correctly, because Logan Lansing has no fucking clue what has actually mutated the Marxist philosophy that he's so proud of spending all his time studying. He has no clue about the queer anarchist literature. He has no clue who the real activists are in the real world. Logan Lansing thinks it's the gender studies departments that are doing everything, guys. The gender studies departments are the gain of function. No, they're not. No. Nope. Wrong. And you can even see Stony Baloney is in the comments there like a champion. Can you explain Marxist gain of function? That's an interesting phrase. Where did it come from? Where did it come from indeed? Where did it come from, Logan? I just can't put my finger on it. I just don't know. I just cannot put my finger on where this came from, considering I first wrote about this on my Substack on May 7th in 2024. But the stream we did where we coined the effing term was done at least a week prior to that, because I let that ruminate in my head for a minute before I wrote about it. Awfully coincidental. Awfully coincidental, if I do say so myself. All right, Nick doesn't look like he's live yet. We'll keep an eye on that. And in the meantime, I do want to go to the culture war, whatever the fuck, with Tim Pool and all the TradCon women, and we're gonna watch this, and I'm gonna give my opinions on what it means. I don't know if we're gonna make it all the way through it because it's already 1 a.m. But we'll give it a try and we'll just see how this goes. All right, everyone, mount the like button for me, please and thank you. Let's get started.
You deserve our respect. Then you have white knights, and they're like, women can never do anything wrong.
Yeah.
So what's going on? What's the contentious issue?
Do we start with like the role of women? Lauren, your view, Pearl, your view. I know that there's a lot of conversation on X.
Sure. Well, I mean, just to get started, so I don't disagree with everything Pearl says, but I feel like Pearl is someone who, I mean, I want to hear your thoughts on this. I feel like you kind of enrage bait people with your posts because you'll post something really like a super hot take on Twitter, and then like you'll make a video about it, and the video in turn is a lot more nuanced, a lot more I guess rational. So sometimes I feel like I'm trying
I
to
think Lauren's top
I'm
is
struggling
very
to
pretty.
see like what your actual views are
Looks very
versus
nice.
maybe what gets the most traction on X. So I'm excited for this to have a conversation about it. But I guess the role of women in society is, you know, to be mothers, to be wives, to support their families. How exactly that looks is going to differ from people to people. That's one of the reasons why I don't necessarily associate with the trad movement. I feel like trad refers to specifically almost the glamorization and in some ways fetishization of maybe like rural 1850s middle America, at least on like what I see on TikTok. Whereas, you know, I'm just a mom who works part-time from home and is basically trying to do whatever I can to help support my family.
Well, I would say there's character limits on X. So, I mean, you're not going to get a full opinion with like, I don't know.
There's actually not any more, Pearl.
I don't know what tweets are you talking about? And I have like 18,000, so I don't know.
I hate her. I hate Pearl so much.
Well, we actually like I wanted to be specific here because I did pull some of the ones up. I sent them to you. I didn't want to like ambush you or surprise you or anything like that. Let's see.
Oh wait.
And the role of women in society.
I love that. That was so fucking slick by Lauren. Lauren is such a professional. Cause Pearl starts right in. She's like, Lauren, I just don't know what you're talking about with the spicy tweets. Can you point me to a tweet? Because I've tweeted 18,000 things. I just don't know. What could you possibly be talking about? And Lauren like slides in there like a champion, and she's like, you know, I sent them to you because I didn't want you to be surprised, but you know, I can pull them up. It's okay. So Pearl, Lauren did actually send you the tweets in advance. Don't act dumb.
Sorry, I was thinking what the second question was. Well, I think it depends. Like, what do we want it to be, or what is it now?
Right.
And I think right now it's like we're not really doing much. We're not really having kids. We're not really contributing to the economy when you look at output. So it's like, what do we want it to be, or what?
Where's your husband? Where are your kids? I
wouldn't say women are doing what you described now.
Okay, well, one of the things that, like, I spoke recently actually with Rachel's husband, Andrew, and one of the tweets that I mentioned that I thought was kind of strange coming from you was that basically you said evil comes from women. You know, Andrew, in his interpretation, he made a very rational, very nuanced. Actually, this is what she means. Is it not true that there is a lower moral bar for women? Blah blah blah. And it like. Andrew's smart guy. It made a lot of sense. That's not what the tweet was.
He's really not that smart.
Kind of funnily enough, you tweeted out later to clarify, Lauren, that yes, evil does come from women.
Yeah, well, because I would just look at every problem in society. It all comes from women.
To be fair, I just realized this the other day, but did you know that Hitler was made by a woman? That proves it.
Well, it's like you look at the homeless. Most of them come from single mother homes. You look at school shooters. Most of them come from single mother homes. You look at criminals, rapists. Most of them come from single mother homes. You look at what happens when women get power. So when men get power, they build societies. They do awesome things. When women get power, we're just not very good with it.
I just brought up Hitler. I mean, I kind of feel like there's a lot of bad dudes, you know?
Well, yeah, but there's also bad queens, right? If you look at queens the last 500 years, women are more likely to wage war. Women are way more.
The queen that just reigned for 70 years in England might disagree with that, Pearl. Doesn't Pearl live in London? Like, I'm just saying, where does everyone think Pearl will be in 30 years? Listen, man, I don't mind women having traditional views. Like, I don't really care. Like, for the record, I think I've been married long, just, you know, so we're very clear. I'm going to be married 13 years in November. So I think I've been married longer than any woman that we're going to hear from tonight. Now, I don't have kids. That is a choice that we've made because my husband and I don't want kids. We like our money and we like our freedom. We are both very happy with that decision. But could I have kids in a very stable marriage if I wanted to? Yeah, I could. And so I feel like I'm actually in a good position to comment, at least on like the making of the successful marriage aspect of this, because I'm actually married and have been married for a long ass time. So I just don't understand why people like Pearl, who Pearl is building this media empire, which no shade on her, talk all day about how much women suck, how much women shouldn't be in power, how much they should just be married and tradcon wives and have kids and all that stuff. She doesn't have a husband. She doesn't have kids. She's actually a boss bitch that is riding the tradcon wave being a boss bitch. Like, don't complain unless you are going to walk the walk.
Violent with power. And we see that in society. Look at what women are doing in the court system today. What is more evil than breaking up a family? And women do that all the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say most problems in society come from women.
So that's interesting because I watched your conversation with Michael Knowles, which I thought was really interesting. And in it, you were very adamant that people need to take responsibility for their own actions. So when it relates to women, it's not really an excuse to say, oh, well, feminism brainwashed me. You still made the decision to sleep around. You still made the decision to get an abortion.
I think if you get an abortion, you're responsible.
Okay.
Right?
Shouldn't we have that same standard when it comes to the rapists, the men? You made a decision, you're responsible. It's not really like, oh, but my single mother. Like many people have,
and they are responsible. They go to jail for it. But you
A
have
lot
to
of
look
them
at there's
don't,
significant
Pearl,
differences between single mother and single father homes. And I can't help but notice that all of the men that seem to lack morals, they were raised by a woman.
Right. But is the answer then that evil comes from women? We are kind of leaving out the fact that, yeah, a man actually left the parent or his family in that situation. There are some situations where a woman doesn't want the man there,
but most of the time men don't
God.
leave. Women are the ones that overwhelmingly leave. And if you really dig it, if you actually do the work and interview men that are the known to be like deadbeat dads, most of the deadbeat dads don't really exist. They're exceptions. They're not the rule.
So,
and if you actually do the work and interview these guys, there's men that have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars fighting for their kids. And unfortunately, we're in a society where women can claim abuse. You know, they can say he emotionally abused me and not see his kid for years.
Real quick, what's the stat? I know that there's stats on women initiating divorce more, but how do we say that, fatherlessness is predominantly driven by women? Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, because women are choosing to leave, and the number one reason is irreconcilable differences.
But that's when you're talking about single mothers who are a result of divorce. If we're looking at single mothers who were never actually married, it's a very different group of people.
But the whole point is women have all the power here. We have a million choice. You get to choose whether or not you get pregnant. Abortion's legal. So we are 100% in control of who's born. So there is zero excuse to make a kid with a guy that's not going to stick around. Zero excuse. None.
I mean, I would also say there's zero excuse for a guy to not stick around.
Well, but the issue you're getting is
because you're basically saying, but what about the women though? When we're talking about the man leaving,
but the difference is men cannot opt out of fatherhood. Women can opt out of motherhood.
And I think we would both agree that you should not be able to opt out of motherhood.
But we can. And it's not my point, but should, whatever. Like abortion's legal. It's here to stay, unfortunately. I don't say this because I'm happy about it, but I mean, in the UK, they're introducing a law where they want to make it legal up to birth. So abortion is legal. And right now, men are not able to opt out of fatherhood. Only women are.
Only socially, not physically. Women in the United States overwhelmingly have the right to abort.
Correct.
Or are allowed to abort. Men don't have any say.
If men don't want to be a father and don't want to take like basic precautions like wearing a fucking condom or pulling out or making sure the woman that you had a one night stand with has the morning after pill if you didn't use a condom or pull out, listen, I had a lot of sex in college. I had a lot of sex in my 20s. I never got pregnant because I wasn't stupid. And it's just like, it is not hard to not get pregnant. It is not hard to not get someone pregnant. I know you don't like wearing condoms, but like that's the fucking price you pay if you want to fuck around. It's just like, I don't know why this is so hard.
Whatsoever. But socially, I looked it up. It says, according to the U.S. Census Bureau, 20.2% of fathers, about 7 million, are absent dads. They don't live with their minor children. So
Right, but why?
Right. So this stat doesn't literally mean that 20% of fathers are like getting up and saying, later, kid, I'm going to buy scratchers, and then disappearing. But
Yeah.
my point was just that of this, you have men who are like, okay, you're having a kid, I'm leaving, you'll never see me again.
Gnostic sex
Well,
cult is
but you don't
confirmed,
understand the circumstances, because a lot of times women make men dads that don't want to be. They're like, this is something casual. This is, situationships are really common. They know that man will never commit to them, and yet they still make the choice to have his kid. I think in those situations, if we can legally opt out of motherhood, they should be able to legally opt out of fatherhood.
They can.
We have
Wear
all
a
the power
condom.
now. Don't make a kid with someone that doesn't want to be a
Wear a
father.
condom.
I see. You're saying
I think that applies equally to, and this is why I don't advocate for promiscuity. Don't sleep with someone that you are not prepared to have a child with.
But
Should, but what's happening
is what
that's like, this isn't a dream world. This isn't like make a wish, society promiscuity is going to go. It's not.
But
so I'm talking about what's happening. Go ahead.
Are you saying that a woman who sleeps, like, let's say a woman, we'll start light. She sleeps with a guy, gets pregnant, and then realizes this guy will leave her, doesn't want to be a dad. You're saying she should get an abortion?
I'm not saying should or shouldn't. I'm saying women have the choice to right now. Men do not have the choice to opt out of fatherhood. Should or shouldn't. It's almost like, okay.
They do.
I mean, this is where I get frustrated with conservatives. It doesn't matter what I say. Women are going to abort their kids. It's not going to become illegal. So if we're in a society where we can legally not be mothers, if we don't want, why can't men legally not be fathers?
I get that.
Yeah.
But the question I'm thinking of is, you're putting a lot on women as those who are responsible for single parent, like single mothers. And what I'm trying to understand is, you're saying because women can choose not to be a mother.
Yeah.
You said something to this effect. And the guy can't. That means the woman has decided to have a child knowing the man will not be there.
At times, yes. At times.
So I guess my concern then is, like, let's say there's a woman who deeply loves a man.
Okay.
And she says, let's get married. And he says, yes. And then they do. And then she says, oh, hey, on our honeymoon, I got pregnant. And he goes, no way, I'm not doing this. I never wanted to have kids. I'm filing for a divorce immediately. What is the option? Does she get an abortion, or does she become a single mother?
She can pick what she wants.
Right. But
my point is
that doesn't put the responsibility on her. It puts it on the man.
No, I still think it's on her, because we have 100% control. You can track your cycle. So you have plan B. You have. Again, if
she married.
Wait, women can track their cycle. They have plan B. Men can wear a fucking condom. Men can pull out. Men can go get the morning after pill at the pharmacy. You don't even need a prescription for it anymore. And he can make sure that she takes that fucking pill the next day. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe if a man's going to fuck around, like, is it really that out of the realm of like possibility? Maybe he should have a fucking morning after pill in his wallet to give the woman just in case she doesn't get pregnant. It comes in a little package like this. It's not hard. Like they're like, it's like $50. This is not that hard. If women have to be responsible for tracking everything, then men do too. And if you can't put on a fucking condom, then you are just lazy and you are asking for it. Or get a vasectomy if you don't want kids. Or just put on a condom. Or pull out.
Married a guy she loved. She thought they were going to have a family, and then he betrays her.
Okay. I'm not going to keep repeating myself on that, but I think I've beaten the dead horse. Facts and evidence. I've never met one. It's not overwhelmingly happening. That's one. And two, you generally, if a man marries a chick, he wants to have a kid with her. Generally speaking.
Generally, I do agree. I think.
But again, shouldn't, I think that if women have the right not to be mothers, men should have the right not to be fathers. So if he wants, he should be able to say, hey, you know what? I don't want to be a part of this kid's life. I want to opt out of child support for 18 years. You want to have the kid? Good luck. I don't think that's correct, like morally, but right now we can do something. We can get abortions. We can opt out of motherhood. They should be able to opt out of fatherhood.
I mean, they can opt out of fatherhood by not getting people pregnant.
Exactly.
Right. But
so that is very, very possible without abandoning the child. And that's the thing. Like, the child does not have the ability to opt out of needing basic care, comforts, and things like that.
And that's true. But my point is, having unprotected sex, that's an equally irresponsible decision. We can agree, right?
Yes,
right.
yes.
So, but my point is, after that happens, the woman has the plan B option. She's the only one that can guarantee she took the plan B, right? Then we have
Actually, anyone can buy plan B. All you do is go to the pharmacy and you buy it, and the man can buy it and give it to the fucking woman if he's too lazy to wear a condom.
she had the option before also to be on birth control or not be on birth control. Many women lie about that. And she has the option to get an abortion. Now we're going close up to birth. As long as we have those extra options, I think men should have the option to not be fathers. Do you think that's unreasonable?
Yeah, I do. And I've listened to you talk about child support and child custody. And I agree with you that if a man is being kept from his child, it is simultaneously unfair to say you have to pay for him, but you're not allowed to visit him. I don't think that's right.
Okay.
I think you're getting the worst of both worlds there. And I do agree that custody should be 50-50 off the bat. Like that should be the presumption.
Mhm.
You shouldn't lose rights to your child just because you and the mother are divorced. But I don't think you can essentially opt out of a life that you created. And when it comes to abortion, I don't think, similar with women, that you should be able to opt out of the life that you created. So what we
but
have
it doesn't
now,
matter what you
we
think,
have
it
now-
matters what's happening.
Right.
That's
So
the point.
right
Yeah.
now, what's happening is immorality when it comes to abortion. But I don't think the way to fix that is to also extend immorality to child support. Like this is a life you've created. You've both created. You both have responsibility to it.
Whose morals?
What do you mean?
Because
whose
it
morals?
just turns into a morality police. And that's like always with these conversations.
About abortion?
Correct. Well, no. I'm talking about sex outside of marriage, that sort of thing. But let's not play pretend. 3% of people are waiting till they're married. That's not really common. I mean, was anyone here virgin on their wedding night? Anyone? No? Okay. So why do we play pretend? All right. So it's like,
Well, I think
So-
this
so my-
gets to the heart of it. We can sit here all day and talk about what we think ought be or not ought be, but the problem is that you're not going to fix any of this without patriarchy. When we threw patriarchy out
my
the window, we sexually
God.
liberated women. What we did was throw off a balance of power that was already there. Women historically have been, the gatekeepers of sex. Every one of us sitting at this table has twice as many female ancestors as we do male ancestors. So genetically, women had this great advantage. Then we have our youth, our fertile years, where we have tremendous sway, tremendous influence and power. And I think that's temporary on purpose. What happens when you give women equal political power and equal social power to men, and you remove the father as the head of the household, which all patriarchy means is rule by the father. When you throw that out, this is
Not
the
actually what the
mess you
patriarchy
end
means,
up with
but okay.
that's impossible to fix, because
And
what are we going to do about all of this out of wedlock births? And
my point is, we have all this freedom, so take the responsibility that comes with it. So if right now we have the freedom to get an abortion, doesn't matter what we want, doesn't matter what should be. I don't agree with abortion either, but right now it's legal. So if that's what we're doing, then take the responsibility of raising the kid. That's what I say.
So, do you all agree with the idea of patriarchy?
Yes.
But I mean, how would you do you?
Oh,
Pearl?
I'll put a caveat. Biblical patriarchy.
Yeah, I was gonna ask like what is, but how are you? What's your view on the idea of patriarchy?
I don't think it'll ever happen in my lifetime. I think it's a good idea, but I wouldn't predict that would happen in my lifetime.
Sure.
Can't anyone make the decision to have their marriage run however they want? What the hell is Pearl talking about? It won't happen in my lifetime. Is Pearl saying she's never going to get married? Because Pearl very well could get married and institute a patriarchy in her marriage. It's not that hard.
How would each of you would you define patriarchy similarly? I think Lauren, you have a
Right.
different view.
Because I guess just blanketly patriarchy. I think that the father's role at the head of the household, it comes from God, and it's valid insofar as he is acting on behalf of God, trying to lead his family in a godly way. Because obviously people are gonna say like, what about this abusive husband? Blah blah blah. It's like, all right, well, if he is not conducting himself in a manner that aligns with the way Christ treats his bride, the church, then that's actually not biblical patriarchy.
I'm going to shockingly disagree with this take.
Go for it.
Which might surprise a lot of people because everybody knows I'm an Orthodox Christian. I'm pretty serious about that. But you guys might not know there was a huge amount of membership.
If Rachel Wilson really believed the things that she's about to say, then Rachel Wilson would not be by herself on a show, away from her husband, away from her children, with 3 different baby daddies. She would be at home, and she would be cooking, and she would be cleaning, and she would be raising the children that she's had with 3 different baby daddies, and she would be helping them with their homework, and she would be doing activities. Listen, man, I've been in the homes of women. Like I went out to I did this thing like a month and a half ago where I ended up staying at like the very nice house of a very nice family that has a ton of kids and a wife as a homemaker, and the husband is out there and he's doing his thing and he's making the money and he's providing for his family, and all the kids are homeschooled and the kids are running around all day. And guess where the wife was? She was in the home, taking care of the kids, homeschooling the kids, getting the kids to their lessons and activities, doing activities with the kids. She was cooking. She was making sure the house was put together. She was making sure everything. It was just like, that's what, like, if Rachel Wilson was serious about what she was saying, she wouldn't even be on this show.
In anti-suffrage groups. The anti-suffragists were far more popular than suffragists. Women did not want suffrage. Very few people know that, like, less than 4%, according to all of the referendums that they did at the time, women did not want it.
Doesn't matter.
And if you take a look at the arguments that women made for why they didn't want suffrage, why they didn't want women's liberation, they said, you're charging us with something we cannot do. So we cannot rule society. We cannot defend persons and property, which is supposed to be the primary role of government, to defend persons and property. If women can't do that, why give us political power? Why give us voting rights? Then we might have to get drafted. We might have to show up for jury duty, things like that. So I think to say, well, we'll let the men rule as long as they're doing it in a way that we feel is Christian or things like that is kind of beside the point, because women only have an illusion of authority right now, basically. Like if it comes down to it. So men have the monopoly on force. There's no way around that. Even if you talk about, oh, well, there's women senators or there's women presidents or there's females in the military now. At the end of the day, the people who enforce any illusion of rights, women's rights or otherwise, are going to be men. Period. End of story. Nothing you can do about that. So to say, oh, women have equal rights, they have equal rights that they have to appeal to men to enforce on their behalf. So is that actually equal? So I'm just saying, like, to have this idea that, well, we'll let the men be in charge. The men are in charge. Right now, what's been happening is they've allowed women's liberation, and we can talk about who and why.
So you're saying that at any point, if like the majority of men in government were like, yeah, women, you're done. That's it.
Yes. We wouldn't really be able to do much about it. I don't disagree, but
if
I think
tomorrow they went, we've had enough of this little experiment, hasn't gone so well. I think this women's rights stuff is over, and no more voting for you, and you're gonna mostly be at home. If you have young children and you're a mother, you're going to be at home raising them. You're not going to be, trying to be a CEO. What would women do about that? Get mad, cry a little.
Then why aren't you at home, Rachel? If you really believe that, then why aren't you at home raising the children that you've had with 3 different baby daddies?
But yell. I mean, but
yeah, I see what you're saying. I mean, I feel like politically, women certainly have a lot of power. There are a lot of guys online who refer to our current Western society as gynocentrism. But I think I see what you're saying in that, because men typically are the aggressive force. If they decided to, they could stop it, and women couldn't.
Right.
So I guess I'm imagining a scenario where if a bunch of, say, like Republicans came out and said, no more 19th Amendment, you would have a bunch of women saying, how dare you, we won't allow this. But I suppose the argument then is the only reason that move from a Republican would be blocked is that Democrat men would
Yes.
block them.
Well,
Well,
that's,
some
that's how
Republican
we
too.
got the 19th Amendment. It was actually like Gilded Age industrialist progressives, the same guys who met at the Jekyll Island Club in 1910 to draft the Federal Reserve Act, the same guys who wanted the income tax, had a vested interest in getting women out of the home and into the workforce and making them politically active.
But why is that? What was their interest?
Well, a couple of reasons. The first interest is if you're going to do an income,
Do you have any idea what's required to do this? Good luck. Real good luck. I wish you the best of luck changing the Constitution. Have you ever looked into the process that is actually required to change the Constitution, bro? God, none of these people ever know what they're talking about.
tax, you can only tax the men's wages. Well, imagine if you can double that by getting all the women into the workforce and taxing their wages. So that's one. Two is a lot of these guys wanted this blend of socialism and capitalism that we have right now, this kind of hybrid system. And there was a lot of anti-suffrage groups that had posters, pamphlets, encyclicals. They even did debates against suffragists where they said a vote for women is a vote for socialism, because the Bolsheviks in Russia were saying, we're never going to have full communism. We're never going to have true socialism unless we get women involved, give them the vote, make them workers,
That's
make them
not
see
actually
themselves
what
as
they
labor
said, but
units
okay.
rather than mothers. So this was kind of the plan.
That's not at all what they're
So
saying,
That's
Rachel.
kind of how we ended up with the system we have now. So they wanted
That's not what
to
they
dual income
said.
tax. They wanted women in the workforce. What's the other big benefit of that? Where do the kids go all day? If mom and dad are both at work, they have to go somewhere. Oh, we magically get the compulsory education system right along this same time frame. So the kids are being indoctrinated with whatever values the government and the Department of Education want to bestow on them. So, and then the other big obvious one is cheap wages. If you were JP Morgan or a Cornelius Vanderbilt or a Rockefeller or a Ford, and you have these huge factories and you need lots of cheap labor, you can only import so many immigrants.
See,
Better idea, take the women.
I just like, a lot of people have said to me that I should go on this show. And like, I refuse. And the reason I refuse is, can you imagine me on this show right now? I mean, seriously, I like Lauren Chen. I'm not shitting on Lauren Chen. And Isabella Riley is really funny, okay? Moody, whatever her name is. But can you imagine me on this show talking to someone like Rachel Wilson? Can you know how that would go, and it would not go well. And it certainly would. I would already be yelling, and then I'd be the bitch, and then I'd be the bad guy, and then I'd be the psycho and the cluster bean, me, and like all that shit. No, 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 never gonna happen. Yeah, well, I should just bring my knitting. Like, you're fucking crazy, bro. Yo, when I debated Lauren, this is like my one and only debate. I retired after this because I broke Lauren Witzke for like 3 straight days after that. Because I gently reminded Lauren Witzke during that debate that I was married and she wasn't. And that broke Lauren Witzke for like 3 straight days. She kept posting about me. It was so great.
Who are going to work for a lower wage, put them in the factories, which is exactly what we saw happen. So
I suppose with industrialization, you immediately let me pause. Go back before industrialization. Conscription became okay. I got to slow down. Obviously, conscription's been around forever. Guys were forced to fight, but it became substantially more viable to have a conscripted class when like breech loaders, muskets, and more easily loadable weapons became prominent.
Yeah.
It used to be back in the ancient days, you had a warrior class, men who were born from the day they were born, every day trained to be fighters. And they said, these guys are going to be the fighters who defend this nation. And they had spears. But then all of a sudden they were like, this is a gun. You point it, you pull the trigger, it works. All of a sudden they were like, we could take literally anybody, hand them this, and they can fight on equal. So all of a sudden I was reading about the fall of samurai in Japan. And this warrior class had tremendous political power. that was lost the moment rifles were introduced to the country. All of a sudden, they're just like, we don't need you anymore.
Yeah.
Your political power is gone. So I forgot exactly where I was going with that, but
Probably that it's the Industrial Revolution
Right.
is what allowed feminism. If you ever
Exactly.
wondered how come women's liberation didn't happen for 2, 4, 6,000 years before this, it's because technology is the thing that makes it possible for women to feel they're equal with men. Look at this studio. Were any of these lights, this Wi-Fi, these computers, any of this designed by women?
No.
Do the women
nothing.
upkeep it? Do the women build it? No, the men build
Yeah.
this technological world that makes us think,
And it's so
oh, I
funny.
can be a
It's
career
so-
woman. I can be
It's
in
so
charge.
funny because women will come on the show and say they don't need men on a microphone that
Yes.
men built in a building
Right,
that
right.
men maintain.
and I agree with that. And my counter, because I was talking about this, I have a segment we'll get to in a second. All of these women these feminists are online saying, we're great inventors. Actually, I was just screwing with ChatGPT because
No.
it's super woke, and I'm trying to.
The thing is, it's like, why can't we just be rational human beings and say that men and women balance each other? Men need women to balance them. Women need men to balance them. Like, why does it constantly and perpetually have to feel like we're in 3rd grade and it's like boys versus girls and boys have cooties, ew, girls have cooties, ew? It's like, no. The reason that men and women exist is because it is a perfect blend of masculine and feminine, yin and yang. That is the point. You can't, you need both. It's not about one or the other. It's about both. And the conversation should be, how do we balance each other? And by the way, there are some men that are really effing feminine. And there are some women that are really effing masculine. There are some men who behave more femininely than women do. There are some women who behave more masculinely than most men do. And I happen to be one of those women, so I know something about this. And that's not to say I'm a man or that man is a woman, but that's also in the equation. It's like these things have to balance out. And if we are all a perfect blend of masculine and feminine energy, regardless of how you were born, regardless of what genitals you have between your legs. And so if you are a man that behaves more femininely, guess what? That's not to say you have no masculinity, because of course you do. You're a man, you have a cock, right? But you're going to need to find a woman that has more masculine energy to balance you out. And that's fine too, because that woman is also going to have feminine energy. And it's like you want to have a balance. That's what the point is.
Get to admit reality. And it was like, men and women are completely equal and have contributed equally to society. And I'm like, I agree that's true, but tell me why.
Mhm.
And it starts going on about great inventors. And I'm like, no, spare me this. It is strange to me that there are so many feminists that want to talk about the masculine things women have done, instead of literally just being like, how about every great world leader was made by a woman?
Mhm.
How about the fact that women are the ones who create the people in concert with men? Yes, but women, if a guy's like, I invented the light bulb, it's like, congratulations, you were created by a woman. Like, can we give women credit for being the creators of life?
No, and what's interesting is that feminists basically have masculine values. They only judge women as successful or useful when they are conforming to masculine norms.
Yes.
That's why they love the CEO, feminine girl boss. They love those female fighters. They're only proud of women when they're behaving like men, because that's where their value set comes from. They basically disregard the homemaker, anything feminine, nurturing, caring, childcare. They think of that as unimportant, which is ironically actually sexist.
So I want to pull this up. I was talking about this the other day. This is a great thread. We have Catherine Brodsky. She posted this image of this Taekwondo black belt woman doing this absolutely amazing bow staff routine. She's spinning this aluminum staff. It looks absolutely incredible. Wow, real talent there. I sincerely mean that. Look at that. She said, if you run into her in the forest, I pity the man and the bear.
God, this woman is so delusional.
She then responded, the number of unfit, unskilled men claiming they can, quote, take her merely based on the fact that they are men. Yes, men are on average stronger, but take an unfit man in a somewhat similar weight class and she's winning.
No.
No.
So the first thing I want to say is the caveat of an unfit man in the same weight class after saying, I pity the man in the bear. So this woman, tremendous talent. I mean, no disrespect, but she's 5'1", 100 pounds.
Right.
Yeah.
She has her stats are available for her, like fight record and everything. There's a reason why a man who is 6'3", raw muscle, ripped to the bone with 4 black belts will not beat a grizzly bear in a fight.
Yeah.
Technique's not going to save you
Exactly.
from a grizzly bear,
Right.
because physical mass matters in the conflict. Yes, there's with proper grappling technique, it's known that women could force a man into a submission, but a 5 foot tall, 100-pound woman will be lifted up with one arm by probably your average guy. Okay, maybe not your average guy.
I don't even think she could take a 5'1" guy.
No, because
I
even like
don't even-
pound for
yeah.
pound, men are still stronger.
Right.
More
Just-
bone
yeah.
density, more muscle mass.
I mean, my husband, he's really into mixed martial arts. He does BJJ, he does boxing, and I asked him like, we have a daughter. He's like, would you put Riley in like Taekwondo or stuff like that? And he was like, why? And I'm like, I don't know, like self defense. And he's like, no, we're just gonna get her a gun. Like,
Exactly.
she's tiny,
Yeah.
she's half Asian. Like, even he recognizes like for her, it's not gonna be useful. Unless
Yeah.
you do like the Krav Maga, like you just target the eye and the balls is basically
Yeah.
the most
Whatever's
useful thing
effective.
a woman can do.
I mean, I think women should learn self-defense, but I think the idea that women taking self-defense courses under the idea that they're going to beat a man in a
No.
refereed
Physical
fist fight.
Yeah.
But, looking at this Twitter thread, it's loaded with guys who are like, absolutely a trained woman would beat a man. And I'm like, I think Ronda Rousey could probably take the average guy, but even that is a maybe.
Right.
There was some unfit average guy. I can't remember the exact story, but he challenged any MMA champion woman to a fight, and they all refused to do it until finally they did. Someone finally they would be like, "I'll take him. He's nothing. I'm trained." And then at the last minute, be like, "I'm not doing it." And then finally something happened where he did like a friendly sparring match and got put in a submission, and they hugged it out or whatever. I don't think it was a real fight. The average guy is 5'8", 5'9". Actually, the scary thing is the average guy right now is 5'8", 200 pounds, which is kind of worrisome.
Chunky.
Yeah, and the same thing with average women in this country is also like 150 or something or whatever. But if you just take like the average guy who's got 5'8", and let's say 5'8", 199 pounds, how is the average woman who is what, like 5'4" or 5'3"?
Well, I think there's like Hollywood movies have contributed to this
Yeah.
greatly because they've actually convinced women that, with just training, I could totally kick someone's butt. And
Yeah.
we're lucky enough that in Western society, women are so removed from actual physical conflict, including and especially with men.
Why does any of this matter on a practical level? I'm being serious. Who the fuck cares? Who the fuck cares? Who cares? Who cares if a woman can beat a man in a fight? Who cares? Like, the average problems that we need to solve have nothing to do with someone getting beat up or not getting beat up, or whether it's men or women or any of that. Like, the average problems that we need to solve in society are mostly intellectual problems. And then it's about having some sort of like agreed upon strategy that people are committing to in order to solve those problems. No one's getting beat up in this scenario, so who the fuck cares?
That we start to believe that's true. Like, thank goodness all of these women are so delusional, because that means that they've actually never had to fight a man or been attacked by a man. Because if that were, heaven forbid, ever to happen, they would learn really quick that, yeah, you're not as strong as them.
Do you think that's part of why, like, Pearl and I are both kind of tomboys? I'm a firearms instructor myself. I teach women basic
Cool.
pistol and concealed carry. And I'd say more than half of my female students do not have the hand strength to load or operate an automatic pistol. They have to use a revolver,
shut the
something
fuck
like
up,
that.
Rachel.
And I think
I'm
when you
sorry, that's bullshit. That is, you think that the average woman can't load and fire an automatic pistol? Has anyone, how many people here have fired an automatic pistol? Like, seriously, does anyone actually buy into that? Because that's retarded. That's, oh my God.
you grow up doing boy things with boys, you
Oh, you see the
understand and
difference,
respect
yeah.
that you're not a
So
man.
Well, and playing sports, because I played basketball for
Yeah.
16 years. So
Is-
if I go
is-
do pickup, I gauge with guys.
Is
'Cause I'll play with them
Rachel-
sometimes, but
Is Rachel teaching 70-year-old women with arthritis? It's not that hard to fire an automatic pistol. My dad is a firearms instructor. Women are better students and marksmen out the gate. It's a fact, and she's a liar. Women are strong enough to fire guns, Rachel. They're definitely strong enough to load a gun. Loading a gun's not even hard. Yeah, Rachel apparently is instructing the church choir of grandmas. It takes less than 2 pounds of pressure to pull the trigger of a pistol.
I gauge. I know if he played like 1 year of high school, I'm getting beat. Even though I played in college.
I just want to mention the speed loader wasn't invented because women had trouble loading guns or loading magazines. It's because it is substantially easier. It's
Now,
annoying to try and just repeatedly. Oh man,
hang on. God,
going to the
why is it
range
gonna
and
have
then
a pause? Well, like now loading
Revolver, you gotta have a
God
speed
damn it.
loader, but
right.
No, pause.
We go to the range and
Pause.
I'm like, I've got
Don't
17
do
rounds
this
to
to
load.
me, YouTube. Now, loading a magazine is annoying and no one likes doing it, but it's like not, I don't even, how is it possible that someone can't load a magazine? I don't get it.
In this thing, just give me the speed loader. I don't want to keep pressing into it. It's extra work I don't want to do. Yeah, I'd imagine the speed loader is going to make it much. Technology really does equal the playing field for women in a lot of
Yeah.
ways.
But
You know-
even a man with a gun versus a woman with a gun, 9 times out of 10, the man's going to be better. Like, people don't think that that's the case. But like when I took my testing to get certified, there was only one other woman with me. She actually brought her husband and had him like loading her magazine.
In the Olympics, there is one co-ed sport. Does anyone know what that is? What is the co-ed sport in the Olympics? I'll even give you a specific season. It's the Winter Olympics. What co-ed sport is in the Winter Olympics? No, not figure skating. Not figure skating. Because that's still, I mean, even if you, we're not talking about pairs, shooting. Shooting is a co-ed sport in the Winter Olympics. Do you know who most often wins? Men or women? Anyone want to take a guess? Again, they're competing on the same level. Competing on the same level. This is not figure skating. Women. So don't tell me that when you have an Olympic fucking level sport in which they are playing at the same level, they're playing on this is not about men versus women. They're on completely the same page, competing against each other in the same fucking sport. Women usually end up winning. The girls often take the medals, Rachel. And anyone can look this up. Fact check me.
Magazines and stuff. I was like, this is cheating. I showed up and did everything myself.
Well, and men even have better hand-eye coordination.
Yeah.
So when it comes to aim, I absolutely demolish my husband when it comes to stuff like that. But that's like very rare. Usually, it's like on average, it would if you know the best sharpshooters or whatever in the military, they are men.
Yeah.
And I know like that's one of the things where there was this whole debate about should women be in the military, should they serve in combat roles? I don't think so,
No.
but people were like, well, you know,
God,
they could
no.
still fire guns as well and stuff
Yeah.
like that. It's like actually
No.
actually, yeah.
Well, and
Wrong.
just because some
Wrong,
women can do some
bitches.
things doesn't
Wrong,
mean that all
bitches.
women ought to do those things.
Oh,
It's the exception,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And
the
then it just proves that women need men. And back to this post, like all the men commenting, it's like, okay, well, who's really to blame for feminism if men these simps like allowed women to have this power, and how do we actually combat feminism today? Because like you said,
Yeah.
women are controlling the emotions, and they're the ones driving this hysteria and making the men vote this way and enforce these things. So
If it is so easy for women to manipulate the emotions of men, then should those men be in leadership positions? Like, are we actually saying that men can't control their own emotions? Because if men can't control their own emotions, then why are we putting them in leadership positions in the first place? Because do you really think it's going to be do you really think it's always going to be just women who are triggering them? No, other men are going to be triggering them too.
really it's up to the men. And I saw your husband talk about how men need to create like men's rights advocacy groups in Washington.
They've had them
Yeah.
for over 100+ years. The first men's rights advocacy group was in the early 1900s. The reason that it's so ineffective is because women are the biggest swing voters.
Yeah.
And so like that's why I would say women are more responsible for feminism, because most men do not have political power other than one vote. And even if they do vote, women will always outvote men because there's more women than men.
I do think though that part of the reason that women, I would say that men should be, they need to have higher standards when it comes to women. I do think that if women, like the reason why so many girls are on OnlyFans or are whores are because men still sleep with them. They're paying the OnlyFans subscriptions. And I know it's easy, like this is not what's happening.
That's
this is what they ought to
true.
do. But if we ever want to change the culture, we have to start somewhere. And I do think that if more men's advocacy groups arised and more men were like, I'm not going to give women and feminists the time of day.
I mean, that's just provably true. Like, if you don't want women to do OnlyFans, don't fucking watch porn. Like, it's really that simple. Don't pay for OnlyFans. But if you're paying for OnlyFans or you're going on Pornhub or you're watching porn, then don't effing complain. It is not hard to not watch porn. It's really not. Porn is gross. Most of the people who do porn are gross. If you need to get off, get like go have sex. Go find someone to be in a relationship that you can have sex with, or there are all sorts of you can just get yourself off, man. There are all sorts of toys and tools and things you can do. Like, if you don't this is like the easiest problem to solve in the world. If a woman wants to get laid, she can go out and get laid. If a man wants to get laid, he can go out and get laid. Now, it might not be with exactly the person you want to sleep with, but don't tell me you can't. And if you don't want to do that, okay, fine. Then go buy a goddamn sex toy. Go buy several sex toys. It's not that hard. And it's way better than porn anyway.
they're pro-voting, if they're feminists, like make it so unfavorable, bring back shaming to such a high degree, as rabid as the feminists were.
I don't know why I'm so fired up about this at 2 a.m.
So I disagree with you. I think women want to be on OnlyFans because they enjoy being whores. So I've interviewed so many sex workers. They just like it. They get off on being naked in front of men. I don't think it's this like the men are giving that
but the men are there to be in front of.
If the men weren't paying for it and the men weren't buying them gifts and the men weren't doing all that stuff, then the women wouldn't want to be there.
But they're also there to be in front of when they walk outside. And I see this when I go to Vegas. Women just get naked on the street. Like you see them,
Not
they have
really.
over women. I've never seen women fight harder than for anything than the ability to be naked and the ability to be whores.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's absolutely appalling, but I think men should have the discipline. And I know
I've been to Vegas many times. I have never seen a rash of women in Vegas walking up and down the street naked. That's not real, Pearl.
it's tough because I'm not trying to blame it all on men, but at the end of the day, it's like sales. It's like if there's no supply, if there's no supply.
But I'm saying even if there was no OnlyFans market, like women would still figure out. There's been escorts, prostitutes, since that's like the world's oldest profession. That's always
and men
happen.
don't have to
back
buy
to
it.
Whose fault is it? I think it's women. I think we're always bringing the blame back to men, but most women vote just because women had the opportunity to leave their husbands. They didn't have to pick it. And I think we're ultimately responsible for the downfall of society. Most men have very little to no political power other than one vote.
Isn't it then fair to say it's actually men's fault for allowing women to do these things in the first
Well, I
place?
think
Okay,
that's
so
it. That was the point I was making.
I want to actually break that down. So, okay, you go get married. Let's just say tomorrow you find your chick, you get married, and then she says, "I want to leave you, and I want to take half your business and your stuff." What do you do? No, don't do it. Well, no, I really want to. No, please don't. Let me go leave.
Right, but my point was pre-women's suffrage, it was men, it's patriarchy, and then the men go, I had an idea, let's divide power
Fine.
amongst women.
Yeah.
Couldn't you then blame men for being weak?
Fine. Maybe 100 years ago,
Failure
sure.
of
But I'm
leadership.
saying any person born today or in the last 50, most men didn't have anything to do with that. Like you weren't alive. I
Right.
wasn't
Sure, yeah.
alive. So yeah, sure. A few men you could say are responsible, but by and large, far more women have opted for this stuff. Far more women have gotten abortions. Far more women have gotten on OnlyFans.
Only women have gotten abortions.
Yeah.
And
Well,
because,
yeah.
like you said earlier, when women get power, they're terrible. They don't know
Terrible
what to
with
do
it.
because they are higher rates of mental illness. They're just way more abusive. They just are power hungry. So because men allowed those men
Yeah.
allowed them to have the power, and now women have the power, and look how terrible society is with the sexual revolution. And now it is because of women today and them having power. And it sucks because we can't go back in time. But
Right.
what can we do now?
Right, but that's my point. If we're gonna go like back, if we're gonna make the argument whose fault is it? Far more women are at fault than men because a very small percentage of men had anything to do with this.
But I kind of feel like the generations just have different problems.
Okay.
I mean, if you go back to the stark patriarchy, there's war, the bloodiest war, Civil War, World War II. There's bad things that existed under patriarchy as well. And so if you look at society today and you say, degeneracy and these things that came from the sexual revolution, these are bad things. But does it mean that it was there ever a utopian society? I mean, how do we weigh the problems today against the problems of yesterday? There were always problems we're trying to fix.
And
Well,
also,
I think the problems of the past were more due to lack of certain technology we have that improves things. So we often conflate the effects of the industrial and technological revolutions with the social revolutions, which feminism is by far the biggest and most significant social revolution of all time. It was not an organic grassroots movement. It was totally astroturfed. It was completely engineered. It was societal engineering. But I think this is my hot take, is that we're not going to fix this. We're not going to culturally go back. There's no going back. But what is going to happen is this is completely unsustainable. This situation, totally unsustainable. And here's why. Birth rates in South Korea right now are 0.78. In the United States, in the entire Western world, in fact, in the whole world except a handful of countries, it's well below replacement.
I disagree. I agree with everything you just said, except for there's no going back. I think what you described is going back. So when you look at the birth rates, yes, in the United States, it's below replacement, but look at the conservative birth rate.
Right.
It's not above replacement. It's not, but it's higher.
Yeah.
Which means that there's this dip happening predominantly among liberal groups
Yes.
and feminist groups.
Yes.
And
Tim doesn't understand that the left owns the schools. And as long as conservatives are sending their little darlings to the K through 12 public schools, the left is going to own them. And Tim has had several years to wrap his head around this very simple concept, which is it doesn't fucking matter if all the Democrat women abort their children, Tim. It doesn't fucking matter. Because the conservatives are still sending their children to the K through 12 public schools in which they're being indoctrinated into Marxism from the time they're 5 years old.
it's much lighter against conservative groups, which means over a long enough time scale, conservatives rebound, liberals.
That's exactly what's
No.
going to happen. But I don't think
Oh
it'll be
my
going back. It'll be
God!
a new. It'll be a
I need to stop
rebirth, and
yelling.
it'll look
Well, yeah.
different.
Right.
And it's
And
just
I also disagree that that's really going to happen, because you can't make your kid be conservative.
Well-
And I've seen kids in, maybe this is anecdotal, but I've seen kids with very conservative parents come out very liberal.
Right.
That
Well,
is
don't send your
anecdotal.
children
I mean,
to college.
Yeah, they've
I-
actually done studies. If the greatest single predictor of what your political ideology is going to be is the ideology of your parents, that's
That's
there's-
before the age.
hang
No,
on.
that's before the age of 25. After 25, the
is-
number one is your husband's.
there
It's your
is
spouse.
there is a
Those studies aren't going to be valid anymore because they were conducted before the schools were as bad as they were. So it's not relevant anymore. I'm sorry. The sample is not applicable to the situation we're currently in.
A genetic component to political beliefs.
Yeah.
People are uncovering more and more. But if you homeschool your kids, you definitely don't send them to public school.
That's
There is
right,
a good
Lauren.
chance that yes, your child will be conservative, and if they get married, then that's
There's
amazing.
a-
Pearl,
go on.
you are correct, and
Yeah.
I think you're going to agree with me. You said that you don't think it's going to go back because you can't guarantee your kid is conservative, but after 25, the husband is the biggest predictor. So-
Husband's number one. Second is
So-
where you live. Third is
Right.
parents. Yeah.
So let me bring up this image right here. This is just a
Mhm.
couple of the data points that we've seen from various countries. Men skewing conservative, women
Yeah.
skewing
Correct.
liberal.
Yep.
So Pearl, what happens at
So-
35?
Okay. So, but women aren't going to get married.
Right.
That's wait. I want to, and women still have the most political power.
So,
Go ahead.
right. Do you believe that
I
all
hate her.
women
I hate her so
hold
much.
these views? I would argue that many of them are just following social trends.
Yeah.
I think that. Do I think all women are liberal? No. I think some are. Yeah.
I mean, of liberal women, do you think all of them inherently do believe this? I believe that when you look at the data from Instagram and TikTok, where women are like young girls develop Tourette's from watching videos of Tourette's, they're very
Right.
socially
Everyone's
influenced.
autistic now.
So
Yes.
I think here's my prediction.
Yeah.
When you look at men skewing conservative, and it's happening now,
Everyone is
Gen
dumb
Z,
except
predominantly
me
among
and
men,
Lauren
very
Chen.
much moving towards Trump.
We are the only
It's
smart
this weird
people on the
phenomenon we've not
internet.
seen. Gen Z is considered to be the most conservative generation in 100 years.
Who are the smart people? I'm actually kind of being serious when I say this. I really think the only smart people on the internet are me, Lauren Chen, and Nick Fuentes. And Nick Fuentes does a lot of dumb shit because he's still very young. Who else is smart on the internet? Who am I overlooking? Keep me honest. Because I really think it's like me, Lauren Chen, and Nick Fuentes with an asterisk, understanding that he's 25 years old and he's still going to make some dumb decisions sometimes. But like, who else is actually smart on the internet? I mean, I think everyone has a crush on Lauren Chen, don't we? Like, I'm not a lesbian or anything, but she's hot. She is. She looks great too. Shirt's very pretty. I like it. No, because Andrew Wilson can eat a whole bag of dicks. Yep. No one else is smart on the internet except me, Lauren Chen, and Nick Fuentes. That's it.
Not because they're conservative. They're not.
Right.
But because it's the first time we've tracked slight conservative ticks. So typically of the past 4 or 5 generations, the next generation is always slightly more progressive. Gen Z is the first time we've seen it sort of balance out
Right.
and then move a little bit to the right in one area. So they're very similar to millennials, but whoa, it wasn't a dramatic shift. Here's my prediction. Men don't have a biological clock.
Right.
Men are skewing conservative.
Mhm.
Men are going to be 35 and they're going to meet a 35-year-old woman on a dating app. And the woman's going to be sitting there going, I'm a progressive. And he's going to say, ma'am, I have all the time in the world. Have a nice day. I won't have kids with
Exactly.
someone who's going to divorce me.
Yes.
This is going to do 2 things. The women who are only following social cues will immediately be like, I never actually cared about that. I want a family.
Right.
And the women who do really believe it won't have kids.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
I don't-
here's
I would
what I was
not-
trying to say earlier is this
Bro.
is a self-correcting problem, meaning we're not going to have to go in and like
Bro, Douglas Murray is a Zionist propagandist. Douglas Murray has no intellectual honesty, no integrity at all. He started lying the minute October 7th happened, provably lying. So no, Douglas Murray is not smart. Douglas Murray likes money.
rebuild the patriarchy. This is the patriarchy going, wait a minute, this was really bad. This was a bad deal. The sexual revolution was a really bad deal for men. Men are figuring this out now. And exactly what you said is true. Men can wait. They don't have to start a family before 30. And by the way, women aren't having children until they're 30, 31 years old now, which is why the birth rate is so low. It's not because people are having no kids. It's because we're telling all the women to spend their fertile years in college, going into debt and building a career. And then we think they're going to flip a switch at 30 and just start popping out babies. They have 1, maybe 2. Because it doesn't make sense to have all that debt and invest your whole 20s in your career and then suddenly.
Well, Rachel, not all of us can have children with 3 different baby daddies. Like, I mean, that's just like, that's a tall order, Rachel. Now, I know you had children with 3 different baby daddies, but that kind of involved you acting like a whore, didn't it? Like, couldn't you just like, have you never heard of a condom or birth control? I mean, I know you don't like birth control, but like, condoms aren't against God. Like, it's not like, it's not even that. Like, you have 5 kids with 3 different baby daddies, Rachel. Yeah, and 2 of the baby daddies mysteriously died. And isn't Andrew like significantly younger than Rachel?
Stay home with your kids.
This is what I.
But
this
the men aren't
sorry.
gonna keep going.
Yeah,
Well,
this is what I would predict in terms of outcomes. Young women have no evidence that they care what men want. When you poll them, they say that they care about men, like they care about traveling more. They care about other things more than men. If I had to predict what the future will be, I would say single parenthood. And I would say that IVF is gonna, and women are just gonna have kids older and older. It's actually gonna get to the point where they don't need a man. They can just get a sperm donor.
That's true, but I don't believe it will outweigh.
No.
I don't think the numbers can ever reach that point. Especially single parenthood will not be nearly as successful, as you pointed out, with crime and homelessness. These men that are becoming more conservative are going to make demands. And everything you pointed out about divorce, it's a really great point. A guy says, I could no fault divorce. You could just take everything away. And what's the point of getting married?
Yeah.
So that means you're going to get more and more guys who are shifting conservative, going on dates when they're 30, and they're going to say, you were really sweet. I really enjoy your time, but I will not date a woman who believes in no fault divorce and abortion. And this means that those women will have to go towards IVF. They won't have kids. If they don't have kids, then their line ceases.
But they will adapt to the views of their husband.
But it doesn't.
Right.
We looked at the results of the 2020 election. Married women voted Republican on average. And this is something that is not that uncommon. White women also voted Republican.
Right.
Guess what? Majority, of all the social demographic groups, white women most likely to be married. Married women are conservative because men are conservative. And
does anyone remember what demographic flipped Democrat in the 2020 election? You want to talk about how men should be running the world? Does anyone remember what very specific demographic switched from being Trump voters to being Biden voters in the 2020 election? You want men to run the world? Guess what? Men voted for Biden. Men voted for Biden. Lauren is correct. The women, many of them, went from Democrat to Republican. Not the younger ones, but the older ones. The ones that went from voting for Trump to voting for Biden in 2020 were the men, the white fucking men. Don't tell me men can make decisions like that. Come on. Again, this should be a discussion about how do we balance things out? How do we work together? How do we take advantage of what some people do naturally well and some people don't, and like say, okay, I'm not naturally good at that thing. You go do that thing. Like, we need everyone. We need to work together. That's the entire point.
And like, I believe, we've talked about service, guaranteed citizenship. What is the ideal electoral system? I think, vote per household led by the husband would be one good thing. But I think my husband firmly believes that if a man is strong and leads, women will follow. And I think that is also true in relationships. He has friends who are very, very right wing in Quebec, very liberal area. They do not have they are young, they're in shape, they have good jobs. They do not have problem, even this super libby area, finding women to date, because it's true. Like, when you present yourself as the strong masculine man, you have these opinions, women follow.
But it doesn't matter what women say, it matters what they do. And if I had to predict in the next 5 years, again, the system is still the same. Women can still wreck men in family court. So why would it be any different the next generation? I mean, you can say what you want in the dating phase, and there's many women that do. I interview the husbands on the other side. They say one thing and they do another 5 to 7 years in family court.
I'm just saying,
divorce
it's-
rates
it's-
are
it's-
actually
it's-
going
it's math.
down.
So the only reason it's going down is because COVID set the numbers off.
But look-
That's one. And the average time before marriage is going up.
And
It's-
nobody's
so-
getting married
And no
anymore.
one's getting married.
All-
And
yeah,
the-
but no one getting
none-
married
none of-
wouldn't affect the divorce rates.
Law, morals, none of it matters in the mathematic argument.
Mhm.
If it is true that even if like there's still going to be high rates of divorce, the fact that men are becoming more conservative, this is going to apply a pressure that over a long period of time, there will be attrition away from divorce and abortion and all of these things. They'll still exist. They'll still exist for a while. But over a long enough period of time, if the math is trending this direction, even if it's 0.1%, this is why casinos make money.
Yeah.
Most of these games are 49, it's if the casino has a 50.5% chance to win to your 49.5,
Mhm.
they don't care if they lose $1,000 because over the long enough period of time, they make money no matter what.
Yeah, I just think that's selling dreams. Okay, guess. 10 years from now, are there going to be more single mothers or less single mothers? Guess. More or less.
More.
In 10 years
Okay.
more.
Okay. In
I
10
think
years, in 10
this
years
is
time,
a-
wait, I want to go
It's
through
not going to
these.
happen, like you said, in our
We-
lifetime.
correct.
It's not going to.
That's
It's not
the-
going to be corrected that quickly.
Correct.
But this I think will accelerate because men are realizing they don't have to play these games and they
Mhm.
don't have to participate in the system. And I think one of the biggest problems that we have, and Lauren talked with my husband about this, is the fact that throughout all of human history, marriage used to be a contract between two families.
Mm.
It had sacramental and religious and spiritual significance. It's a contract through the state. It's a license you get at your county.
Right.
That's 100 years old. This is a very new idea. It failed miserably. We shouldn't be surprised that everyone's getting divorced because who cares about your silly contract through this? It's like a roommate agreement. It's easier to get out of than a cell phone contract.
It's easier.
meaningless.
It is easier to get out of a marriage than it is to get out of a lease.
It
Yeah.
is.
How
It really
insane.
is.
For
Yeah.
women.
Yeah.
Well, right. Yeah.
So I think another thing you're going to see, another trend we're going to see, because men are going back to religion as well at a higher rate than women. Like serious traditional churches are seeing a huge influx. Like the Orthodox Church, I think 80% of our new converts are like young men.
That's great.
Women are going to like Wicca and astrology and all this garbage nonsense. But men are going back to like the traditional churches. And I think what they're going to do is they're going to say,
Rachel, as one of those women that knows astrology and knows how to read tarot cards, do you know what else I can do, Rachel? I can fire a gun. I can also load a gun, which you claim that most women can't do. So I'm comfortable with my choices. I feel okay about it.
I will
Also,
marry you
Rachel,
through my
I don't claim to be an Orthodox Christian when I've had 5 children with 3 different baby daddies.
church. We will have an
Mhm.
ecclesiastical marriage where our church and our community kind of govern the terms
Right.
and enforce the contract rather than just going through the
Yeah,
state.
I just wouldn't predict it because even if you do that, you can't out religion the state. At the end of the day, the state is still the enforcement arm. And if you have children in this country, they're not yours.
The state doesn't matter. All that matters is cultural enforcement. That's why.
No, it does. It does matter.
That's
It
why
does
it's like
matter.
in
That's-
Boston, for instance,
up.
it's illegal to put a pie on your windowsill on Sunday, but everybody does. There are a bunch of blue laws that exist on the books but are never enforced.
Right.
It's because people fear more social than they do legal.
Mhm.
For instance, why are criminals still going around raping and murdering and shooting despite the death
Mhm.
penalty? They don't care. But why is it that cancel culture dramatically shifted major parts of our market for the past 10 years, only up until now? Why did Target abandon in many of their locations the Pride
Mhm.
section? Cultural enforcement is stronger. When you have people who grow up in a rural community going to church, and that there's a man and a woman, and they think to themselves, if we get divorced, it is going to cause major cultural problems for us at church, at community, and our bake sales, in the fire department. We can't live with that. We have to deal with it. The pressure is on them. If you're in a big city, perhaps yes,
Mhm.
but cultural enforcement dictates how people behave. If they could pass a law, and as long as there were cops in Seattle. Antifa was threatening a guy. The
Mhm.
guy's backing up, and he's like pointing at him as he backs away. Cops jump out of their car, arrest the victim. Why? Because the social order in Seattle and Portland is we do not take action against the far left mobs.
Mhm.
So the cops' mentality is If I go after the protesters, I'm going to get into a fight.
Mhm.
People are going to get mad at me. And then I'll be on the news as attacking peaceful protesters. Just arrest the victim and it all stops.
But there is no cultural enforcement that shames women for doing that. I can even look at conservatives. I mean, I have a list here of all the conservatives that are divorced. It's not, I mean, look at how we handled the Crowder situation. Look at Lauren Southern. She just got an article written about her poor divorce story. There's no shame, even from conservatives, for divorce.
I think the movement for like abolishing no fault divorce, though, I think it is gaining traction. I'm hearing about it more and more, and it's partly due to people like you, but I think there are more and more conservatives who weren't really thinking about this. It's not like they supported it, but that it just wasn't on their radar. And I think it's starting to become part of the conversation where, hey, maybe we should talk about this in a way that 10 years ago it wasn't even being mentioned. So I'm actually somewhat hopeful that maybe in the future we could do something about that. I think that is a meaningful change that we could make that would again, I'm not advocating for state marriage, but for those of people who do care about government marriage but are concerned about that, I think that actually is something we could change.
Yeah, I think it sounds. I hate to be a pessimist. I just don't see any evidence that's happening. That's like we could say we want that to happen, but it's not like a wish list.
I have a question. What is the #1 podcast among women?
Probably some murder one.
Probably Call Her Daddy.
Yeah,
That's got to be because they were close. They were close to Joe Rogan.
And what do they talk about on that show?
Sex.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like,
how to give proper blowjobs.
Yeah.
It's kind of wild. Because,
and she just got married. That's a crazy thing.
I was thinking about this because it is largely true crime. Women listen to a lot of murder mysteries. But I think was it Call Her Daddy?
Yeah.
And it's like kind of vapid, degenerate sex talk. And what do guys listen to? No question, it's Joe Rogan.
Joe Rogan.
And what does Joe Rogan talk about?
Protein, MMA. My husband
I mean,
loves
really?
Joe Rogan.
Yeah, and cultural news and political news.
Yeah.
And so I bring that up because I'm willing to bet the majority of people listening to this show right now are dudes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting because on YouTube, my audience is probably for my political channel around 80% male, and that I was excited when I started my pop culture entertainment channel. I was like, finally, I can have more girl audiences because we're just talking about movies. No, 95% male.
The boobs,
So,
Lauren.
I don't know. I guess I'm not talking about the right movies.
Yeah.
Or the right activities.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I had a question with the Crowder case. I told you I was going to bring this up. Why, you said on stream there's some information behind the scenes, but if you're willing to say, this vague stuff, like what is it?
So officially my stance is, aside from what I've already said, Crowder and I currently work for, and he used to work for Blaze TV. We do actually have, some NDAs and non-disparagements. So I will not be commenting further. And I know that's frustrating, but that's why I'm not.
But then why did you make
I'm on Crowder's side.
Yeah, but why did you make like 5 videos on it if you're going to say now I can't comment?
Because she can
I
say
can't
whatever the
comment
fuck
on
she
what
wants.
is not publicly available.
Okay.
I can talk about what publicly is out there.
Okay. So publicly, Hillary on video said he wasn't abusive. Why was that not reported on?
About him not being abusive?
Yeah, it was on video.
I mean,
And so,
I
'cause you
have
had-
problems with
You
the
had
way
something where you alluded in your video on him that he was abusive after you played the clip of him talking to his wife. So my question is, if you're going to report on that, why did you not report on the video of her saying he wasn't?
he wasn't abusive.
mhm.
Which video you're talking about?
It
Was
was
the one
hit-
that I recently did with Jared?
It was not the one where you did with Jared. I'm saying there was
Just so
video.
everyone knows, I got a whole batch of new slime recently from Slime Obsidian. And I really should get a sponsorship from them, honestly. This is a Fruit Loop slime, and it's just like very kind of gooey, and it's got like these Fruit Loop type charms. But the best part about this one is it smells like Fruity Pebbles. They say it smells, I don't think it smells like Fruit Loops specifically. I just think it smells like Fruity Pebbles. And it's delightful.
of Hillary Crowder saying that Stephen was not abusive. And all of the conservatives were super willing to throw him under the bus.
It's like
last
playing
year,
with a
make a ton of money
marshmallow.
off of it, except for Tim.
A marshmallow.
Was I
Except
the
for
only
Tim.
one?
You were the only one who I
Yeah.
thought was fair. I really did. I have never been so disappointed in conservatives because
Well, there with Stephen, and I think with Stephen, like if it were just his divorce, wouldn't have talked about it, but he is someone who's in this industry who has a pattern of basically blowing up personal relationships. And I think
right, but
a
that
lot
doesn't
of
make him an
people-
abuser,
a
right?
lot
You
of
can be an
people-
asshole, but that doesn't make you abusive.
I definitely
I
don't
think
think
we've
he's
gotta-
like physically abusive or anything like that.
Well, yeah, but you alluded that he was like you said
Steve.
that he was abusing his wife in
I never buy it when I hear someone say such and such has a pattern of like blowing up personal relationships, and the reason I don't buy it is this: I have so many people say that about me. They're like, she gets in fights with everyone. She blows up personal relationships. Most of the people say that I blow up personal relationships with, I have literally never had a personal relationship with. Like, I may have spoken to them one time, maybe exchanged a tweet, and then I express an opinion about something they've said or something they've done that I don't like, and I don't know them. We don't talk. Like, I've never even had an offline conversation with them, and all of a sudden I'm blowing up a personal relationship. Like, no, I don't accept that. I am not required to be nice to everyone. I'm not required to say like what everyone wants me to say. I'm not required to not say things that people find inconvenient. Well, yeah, I mean, I think that James Lindsay continuing to say I'm borderline devaluing him. I've spoken to James Lindsay like 3 times in my life. I stopped listening to James Lindsay literally 3 years ago. But apparently in James Lindsay's world, I have some sort of like borderline obsession where I used to just like, I revered James Lindsay up until like a month and a half ago, and I just thought he was the best. I've been bitching and complaining about that guy for a while. I've spoken to him like 3 times in my life, but I'm blowing up a personal relationship? No, I don't accept that. I'm sorry. That's ridiculous. And so I hear like saying the same thing about Steven Crowder. You want to talk about how Steven Crowder blew up his relationship with Jeremy Boring and Ben Shapiro in the Daily Wire? I mean, to me, how I read that is Jeremy Boring and the Daily Wire tried to bend Steven Crowder over and fuck him. And Steven Crowder recorded them doing it, and they didn't know about it, and they got caught with their hand in the cookie jar. Like, I don't blame Crowder at all for that. That was a based fucking move. And so, I mean, maybe Crowder has personal difficulties with people. I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to say there aren't people I've gotten in real fights with that I had a personal relationship with. I mean, I'm sure that's true here and there. But, like, why don't we talk about the people who make this shit up? And just say like, oh, she she blew up the personal relationship with me. I'm sorry, I spoke to you one time in my life. Like, we don't have a personal relationship, bro. And so I'm gonna say whatever the fuck I want to say. And why aren't we complaining about the fact that you're lying? Like, Jeremy Boring was lying when he tried to make this whole big rationalization for why he didn't screw over Steven Crowder. Just like Jeremy Boring was lying when he got everyone at the Daily Wire to say that Candace Owens is an anti-Semite. Why aren't we more mad at them for doing that? Because they're the ones causing the problems in the first place.
in that clip. So if she has a clip that says, hey, he's not.
Well, no, you've literally listed 2 people. You've listed 2 people there. How many people haven't you listed? And by the way, it kind of looks like Jared was trying to fuck over Steven Crowder because he was pissed off about something else. So I don't buy Jared's story. I don't know. I mean, maybe Steven Crowder did blow up the relationship with Dave Landau. We don't know. But like, what I will say is Steven Crowder also has people that work with him that love him, that would walk in front of a bus for him. So why are we dismissing the fact that, you want me to believe that Steven Crowder just blows up every relationship? How long has Gerald been working for him? How long has Gerald been running that entire thing? Like, For every example, you can probably have a couple examples on the other side of saying, no, we really like him and we worked for him for a while and it was just fine. Sometimes people are like that, guys. Sometimes, I mean, especially people with a lot of fire, like you'll have a lot of people that hate you. You'll have a lot of people. I mean, I'm like this. This is like, I'm like a you love me or you hate me person. And I suspect Steven Crowder is the same way, which is why I'm using myself as an example of this. I have a ton of people who hate me. I have a ton of people who I've never spoken to that hate me. I have a ton of people that will bitch and complain all day on the internet about how much they hate me and how I'm a narcissist and this and that and the other thing and blah, 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 blah. But guess what? I also have a ton of people who love me. I have a ton of people in the chat right now who fucking love me. And no matter how many times the people on the internet complain, I hate Carlin for reason X, Y, B, and Z, and she is a cluster B narcissist and baby. Like, I have just as many people on my team that love me, that have been with me for years, that have supported my work for years, that have never done any of that, that have probably spent more time with me and had more conversations with me than all of the people complaining on Twitter. And so I say that because, you know, you can look at these people and say, you know, oh, Steven Crowder blows up all these relationships. And I have 2 examples of Dave Landau and Jared Monroe where he blew up the relationship. Well, so what? He probably has a lot of people on the other side that love him and love him just as he is and love being around him and love his style. Not everyone is meant to be best friends, guys. Not everyone is meant to like be in your life forever. It's just the way it goes.
I would think, oh, wow, all the conservatives, you guys would be the first to report, except for Tim. He was the only one who did. And it's like, you were willing to make video.
Well, if you're, are you asking like the ring cam footage about him?
No, it was video of his wife in court, and she said he was not abusive. This is on camera. The nanny also testified not abusive.
I think my video specifically was about the nanny footage, which I mean, to tell your spouse that you do not love them, I do think that's, I mean, emotionally abusive.
Well, I wouldn't say that's emotionally abusive. No. And because he says you do not show me love, and what he was referring to in the video, if you really listen, pay attention, and there was clip cut out, was Pearl. That she was not showing him love because she didn't listen to him. And it's like trad wives. Why wasn't the question? Why didn't you walk the dog like you were told?
Yeah.
But if you're really, there's a lot to do with the whole Steven Crowder situation that I'm just not going to comment on, like publicly.
But you were willing to publicly make video after video after video
about what was publicly available.
So is the nanny footage. So is.
I mean, I actually am on Steven Crowder's side on this, but Pearl is being so annoying about it that it's actually making me not want to be on Steven Crowder's side. Lauren Chen is allowed to have an opinion. Lauren Chen probably really does know stuff about how Steven Crowder behaved behind the scenes at the Blaze that she is not allowed to say, that influence her opinion. There is no doubt in my mind about that. Lauren Chen's allowed to have an opinion. Lauren Chen's allowed to make videos about whatever the fuck she wants to make videos about. And Pearl is just coming across as an annoying bitch that is probably turning more people off from Steven Crowder than she is getting them on his side. Thank you, Heather. You are one of the only people I've followed for years and never gotten disappointed with. Oh, what a nice compliment. I appreciate that, Heather. Thank you so much for the super chat. Guys, if you are enjoying our late night stream, please make sure to mount the like button for me, if you would be so kind. Now, I keep checking to see if Nick has woken up yet to go live on Rumble as he said he would, but apparently Nick is not doing a show tonight, so that's all right. We'll stick with this.
Like, so
here,
why don't?
Quick question. Isn't it confirmed that I could be wrong about this, that Crowder's wife deleted a bunch of footage from their
100. That's important, you would think.
Yeah, that's
conservative.
So actually, Justice Warrior did this whole breakdown about it. That's something that Crowder's team is alleging, but I don't know if the court itself has verified or backed it up at this point.
I'll tell you why I knew it was full of shit when I first heard it, because I've interviewed so many men that have gone through the same exact thing. And what women do is they poison the well for years. So they'll go around to all of his friends and drop little tidbits of abuse. Now, the common ones are emotional abuse, physical abuse. Some throw in the pedo accusation. That's devastating to men. That's a devastating one. They'll say it about their family. So they'll do this for years. Then when they come out and say he's abusive, they have all of these people ready to back them up in white knight. And then typically what you get is an out of context clip that they throw out there. And so I knew what was happening when I first saw the video.
And you can tell from her Twitter that she's obviously a crazy woman. And I personally think emotional abuse is a myth. I know you said
I agree with you.
you seem to have a different perspective. Would you think emotional abuse is a valid reason to have a divorce if you support no fault divorce?
No.
Yes.
No, but something can be unacceptable behavior though, still within a marriage. Absolutely.
But who are you to tell a man how to speak to his wife in his house? Isn't that out of
Shut
order?
the fuck up,
I mean,
Pearl.
you do that
You
all
aren't
the time.
even
You
married.
call other men simps all the time.
But I don't tell them how to talk to their wife. That's your business.
That is absolutely not true.
Okay,
there are
name it. Go
yeah,
ahead.
for sure. There are tons of times where there will be actual men.
Again, I just say this as a woman who has been married almost 13 years, that Pearl really should get married before she starts talking about how people should behave in their marriages. Like, she's just annoying. I'm sorry.
In your comments saying
So when I
disagree and you call them simps.
When I say simps, it typically means out of order. So typically when I say that, I'm referring to a pattern of behavior where they're putting women on a pedestal. That's typically what I'm describing.
But you'll say that about
this is but we're going to the what about. You're changing the topic.
In fact,
who are you? No, it's a different because
hang on. In fact, can we just create a new rule on the internet tonight? I know that no one put us in charge of this, but I feel like we probably got a good, solid group of people here tonight. I feel like we can make a new rule. Can we make a new rule that no one who has never been married is allowed to have an opinion on how to run a marriage? Now, I can accept an opinion from people who've been divorced because, quite frankly, if they're divorced, they were married at one point, and that experience being married probably gave them some wisdom about what works and what doesn't. And in their case, it obviously didn't work. And hopefully they learn from that experience and they can offer a valid opinion. But I'm sorry, I am so sick of hearing from people who have never been married, like, how to run a marriage. Pearl, you have no fucking idea what you're talking about. I'm sorry. You just have no fucking idea. Marriage is much more complicated than unmarried content creators on the internet want to think it is. That's just reality. And it's like and again, no shade if you're not married. There's no shame in not being married. But do the unmarried people have any idea how stupid they look to the married people every time they offer an opinion on what makes for an effective marriage? It's like, bro, it's like listening to advice from like an elementary school kid. It's like you kind of just hear them babble and you kind of like nod and you smile and you don't take it seriously, and you're not you're not going to take it seriously. You're not going to do anything with it, but you're just letting them talk. Because sometimes people just need to talk to feel important, but really there's no value to what they're saying at all.
My original question is, who are you to tell a man how to talk to his wife in his home?
Well, I don't.
Do you think you should be able to tell a man how to talk to his wife in his house?
I think that men should conduct themselves with biblical standards when it comes to.
But answer my question. Do you think it's your place to tell men how to talk to their wives in their home? Answer yes or no.
I think it is perfectly reasonable to say that a man should hold himself to a Christian standard in the home.
Okay, so you do think it's your place. And this is what I mean when I say a lot of conservative women aren't really conservative.
That's true. Well, what it ends up being is woman sad, man mean. Woman sad, man bad.
Because you're first from a biblical point of view, you are supposed to be obedient to your husband in all things. So before conservative women will talk about the disobedience, their first thing is their tone.
Yes, the tone policing.
That's
super
before,
out of control.
But they never. And I could show this because there's video after video after video. Not a single conservative woman said, "Oh, hey, she didn't listen to her husband." Mm-hmm. Not one. That's crazy to me. And then we want to say, like, you know, men, go get married to conservative women. Most of them aren't really conservative.
Let's bring up the Lauren Southern story, because I think this was actually a big component of Lauren's story. This article was written, I think it was Unheard. It was written by a woman who got divorced. And in the story, I think one of the issues was Lauren realizing that just being this obedient, good wife to this man wasn't working. He kept threatening to divorce her, and it seemed like nothing was working. That was her. I believe
that's her
perspective.
side of the story.
For sure.
And so I doubt it.
But that's the
You were just, okay, let me get this straight. Okay. So nobody asked question. You were this perfect angel. You were a perfect angel. All you did was listen to your husband, and then he threatened to divorce you all the time. Do you guys hear these stories? You believe this? Come on.
But
That wasn't
that's
actually
why
the
I
story.
mentioned biblical patriarchy. Lauren talks about how even before they were married, he would do things like leave for days on end, like not talk to her. There were red flags.
Why did he leave? And that's what we never talk about. A lot of times when men leave, it is because there is
Because Lauren Southern's husband was a narcissist. Everything, and I'm not just saying, like, I'm not saying that as an own. I believe that Lauren Southern's husband had narcissistic personality disorder, like for real. That's not a term I throw around unless, like, I actually think it's a real thing. Every single thing that Lauren Southern described happening in her marriage is like perfectly to a T aligned with what people do when they have narcissistic personality disorder. So, like, that's why he's behaving that way.
negative behavior that we don't talk about. Why? For example, what if she cheated? I'm not saying she did. I don't know. What if she cheated? Would that be an acceptable reason for him to leave for 3 days?
I know, but
we don't know. We don't know,
because even if that is a red
she gets
flag,
an article.
you have a
She gets an
responsibility as a woman
article.
to choose
Sure.
someone, to choose a strong leader for yourself.
We-
So if you're going into this 4 months and you're already seeing red flags, it's not trad to say, I will marry him anyway. Like, I've not
Yeah.
seen Christian dating accounts say, ignore all the
he a
red flags.
Christian? Are they a Christian couple though?
I think he is.
She doesn't. Is she Christian?
Catholic.
Like, what are we?
Yeah. So, but my point is that I like Lauren, but she was kind of portraying as this is why my trad relationship didn't work
Right.
out. I don't think it was a trad relationship.
Yeah,
Like,
it
look at
doesn't-
that.
No,
and it
but
just-
that's my point. Even trad women do not behave trad.
But what is
That is
what
that
is
is.
what
So
really
when I
exists?
say
I don't-
traditional,
yeah.
traditional is family first above all. The family comes first before me.
But I think maybe there's a bias in the system because the women that we hear about are prominent political commentators.
Right.
They're working women.
Yes.
The traditional mothers don't go on. This is a really good point in terms of
Wait,
the rise of feminism as a whole.
Tim was about to say traditional mothers don't go on shows about politics, Rachel.
Whole. All these news articles and these columnists, these women writing about what women should or shouldn't do are not traditional mothers. They're working women in offices. So they have this natural bias. My life is good and everything I'm doing is correct. And then the women who are like, my family matters more than anything else. And I'm not concerned about what's going on outside this house. What matters inside this house is my thing. She's not writing these articles. We're not
Right,
hearing her
right.
perspective.
Well, I mean, I don't call myself traditional or conservative because I'm like, who's tradition? What tradition? That's very
Yeah,
vague, very
yeah.
nebulous. And conservative, we haven't conserved anything. There's
Yeah.
nothing that's been conserved. So I spent 20 years raising a family before I started doing this. And I kind of got into it by accident. I wrote this little book thinking maybe my dad would read it and maybe my grandkids would read it. And it just kind of blew
Now
up.
you're killing it.
So now here I am.
Okay.
But I have 5 children. I've homeschooled them. Like I
3
spent
baby
20 years
daddies.
in my house, in my kitchen, chained to the stove. No, I'm just kidding. Doing all of that before I started making commentary on this sort of thing. And yes, I'm sorry, but if you have a whole career outside of your marriage, that complicates things. Women don't want to talk about that, about how difficult it is when you are over here trying to hustle for your career and you have goals that are not related to your family and antithetical to your family, how that is going to interrupt your family life and your marriage.
I want to trigger as many feminists as possible. So I'm going to get into this.
Let's go.
Get to this point. So there was a bunch of data that was released by like dating websites on the societal value of men and women. And I think it was OkCupid, something like 20 years ago or 15 years ago, showing that societal value tracked among like the willingness of people to interact with each other. Women start their whole lives from 0 through all their teen years at 100% societal value. They're protected, they are offered opportunities, they have easier time getting entry-level jobs, and men start at zero.
Yes.
Young men are considered unskilled, non-valuable, break rocks, kid, earn your place. And then around the mid-20s, a shift starts happening where women start to experience a decline in social value while men experience an incline.
Yes.
Men are becoming more skilled and more valuable as they become stronger and more capable. And not even all men, only a small percentage of them. Whereas as women age, society values them less and less for the obvious reason of the intrinsic value society had was the ability to have kids.
Mm-hmm.
This results in, if
I'm going to be honest, I think, and I've said this for years, I think one of the problems that these shows have and that these shows create for people is talking about all these statistics as relating to dating and demographic shifts and all that stuff. And I'm not saying that stuff isn't important, and I'm not saying that stuff isn't interesting to consider. But what I will say is that I think that a lot of people and a lot of men listen to these shows and they take all this demographic information and they kind of internalize it to the point where they only see the world through these generalizations. And again, it's kind of like, if you want to find someone to get married to build a life with, but all you're doing in your head is statistical analysis all the time of like exactly what you need to do to find the perfect and all this stuff, you are going to miss out on what actually the most important things are in a relationship. Because you're not looking at a woman. Like these red pill guys, man, I swear to God, red pill men, they don't look at women as people. It's actually really disturbing to me. It's like some of the conversations I've had with like these red pill men, and just like the vibes I get from them when I'm talking to them, they do not look at you as a person. Like they're allowed to be a person, they're allowed to be an individual, but like they look at you as an object. And they look at you as like all the problems they see with every other woman in the world. And it is one of the most annoying things I've ever experienced in my life, is to try to have any sort of like forget, like I'm not even talking about romantic relationship. Forget even trying to have a friendship. Forget even trying to have a cordial relationship where like you maybe like you're around each other and like you have each other's backs and you like support each other, like whatever. Like I'm like talking like a basic kind of like friendship here. You can't do that with like these red pill men. You really can't, because they don't see you as a person. They close themselves off to even being able to have a conversation where the two of you get to know each other. It's really fucking disturbing to me. I had never seen it before until like relatively, I mean, within the past like 6 months or so, but man, like I mean, I'm obviously like not a tradcon or anything. I would never do that. But I have, like, I was a tomboy growing up. I hung out with the boys all the time. Like, I've always gotten along better with men. And it's never been an issue. And I like, it was never an issue. And like, I grew up in the 90s. Like, I grew up in like, I went like, so we're not even talking about like the feminist men. It was like, I played baseball on the fucking boys team, like all this stuff. And so I know how to be around men, and I have like most of my friends are not women, they are men. And that's been true my entire life. And to have a conversation with a red pill guy, it's like they don't even see you. And that, to me, to kind of get back to this, is one of the most disturbing things about what I think the implications of shows like this are, because men go into this and they just start seeing women as statistics, and they start seeing relationships as statistics. And it's like, Are there factors that you need to take into consideration? Yeah, you should make good choices about who you get into relationships with. You should make, and that's true, by the way, not just of marriage. That's also true of friendships. That's true of, alliances that you build with people. That's true of this is why I don't associate with basically any content creators on the internet, because most content creators are horrible, horrible people of low fucking character. So I think this is true of any type of relationship, but the minute that you stop seeing people as human beings, the minute that you stop being able to interact with people on a human level because all you see is some statistic because you've listened to way too much of this content and you're doing some mathematical equation in your head because you're afraid of getting hurt, I think it's going to end up impacting a lot of people in ways that people aren't talking about. I think if men are going to stop getting married, then part of the problem is it's not just women. It's not just women at all. And I'm not even saying that women aren't providing some of the problem. I'm not saying women are completely innocent, but part of the problem is shows like this who are telling men there's no point in getting married. You have to look for exactly this type of woman. If you don't find this type of woman, then it's never going to work out and she's going to stab you in the back and she's going to betray you and blah, 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 blah. Are there some women who are bitches? Yes. Are there a lot of women who are bitches? Yeah, probably true. Probably true. I wouldn't want to date today. No way. But if you want to find someone that you can build a life with, you can absolutely find that. And I feel like a lot of men are probably going to give up hope that that's even a possibility for them. And if you give up hope that that's a possibility for you, then you are not if you have the fucking perfect woman that's sitting right in front of you, that's trying to get to know you, that's like you might not even see her because you're so convinced that all the women are the same because you listen to this shit all the time. And it's just I don't know if any of that makes any sense, but I guess what I want people to hear is that if you want someone to marry, you can find someone to marry, but you also have to be open to the fact that you're going to need to build a relationship with someone, and you're going to need to put yourself out there, and you're going to need to make yourself vulnerable. And if you're not willing to do that, then you can whine and complain about women all you want, but you're part of the problem, bro.
Your whole life, everyone around you is saying you are the best. And then one day you start hearing everyone say you're not so great and men are better. Yeah. You start to feel like something's being taken away from you.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And so one of the hypotheses I have is that for the average guy who grows up in the gutter is more likely to be homeless, more likely to be a victim of crime, less likely to get entry-level jobs, much, much harder at a younger age to get a job than women in their teenage years. These guys are like, man, it's rough. Now they're 26 and they're like, life is finally getting good. They're tolerant of the crap. They're used to things being cruddy. And so now they're kind of comfortable. They start hearing women say, man, it's not fair. I'm having these things taken away from me. And the guy thinks, this is the least concerning thing I have ever had to deal with in my life. But that then confers to the men saying, sure, fine, whatever. I don't care. I don't care if you're going to do X, Y, or Z, or the law says this. I've literally eaten out of a dumpster before. This is not my problem.
Right.
And so women experiencing decline creates a pressure on our legal system and our society to continually shift everything back into benefiting women.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I think a lot of women in their 20s and especially into their 30s, they experience this. And there are so many TikTok videos of women in their 30s in their car crying about how they're no longer desirable, because a lot of, women's worth is, the dating marketplace, the sexual marketplace. So when these women aren't married and they don't have kids,
That's also stupid too, by the way. And listen, people can believe me or not, but I've never been the hot girl in my life, and I've literally never had a problem finding a man if I wanted one. Literally never had a problem. And again, maybe it's just because I've always hung out with men and I've always been friends with men, and so I did have I had access to men. It's not if you're hanging out with them, eventually you're probably gonna fuck some of them. But I have literally never had a problem getting a man. I've never had a problem having sex if I wanted to have sex. It's never been an issue. And so I also think that that argument on the part of like women is bullshit, because guess what? Part of what makes you attractive, at least to some men, the right men, you might not be like all men, but like part of what makes you attractive to like the right men that you're going to have a lot of fun with is that you have confidence and you treat someone like a human being and you don't fuck them over. Like, that's really all that's required in some cases, honestly. Rottweiler says most red pill men are basic, boring, simple minded, and have no personality outside their red pill bubble, and they complain that no women look at them. I mean, that's like exactly right. It's like, don't expect things to work out with women if you're gonna just like, be a dick. Do you think a lot of this is men and women being too shallow nowadays? I mean, I think some men are too shallow. I think some women are too shallow. I mean, like the amount of like, I mean, listen, if you think that women are going to be young and hot their entire lives and you're expecting that women are never going to like gain weight or like, their looks aren't going to fade, I've got news for you. That's going to happen at some point. So, like, I mean, if you're expecting, if you're saying that all you ever want is the young, hot wife, that's just not realistic. So I think that that's part of it. I also think a lot of women are too shallow. I mean, a lot of women have these stupid requirements, like, I'm not going to date someone who's not a certain height. Like, I've dated really tall, like the tallest guy I ever dated was like 6'7". I've dated really tall men. I've also dated shorter men. And guess what? It honestly didn't make a difference. It really doesn't. And so I think that both of them, yeah, probably too shallow. Like, I don't know, like, when did people stop? I mean, is it really that hard to like find someone that you like to hang out with and like you like to do stuff with and that you have good conversations with? And is that like, do people even consider that anymore? Or is it all just like you have to look a certain way? Well, that makes no sense. Looks are going to change if you're talking about a marriage.
Are faced with the reality that yes, they do have less societal value, and it's terrifying for them because it's only going to get worse. But that is why, as a woman, motherhood is amazing. Like, I'm going to be turning 30, and I have a lot of friends who are single, 30, like unmarried. They're freaking out. Their prospects look very different from mine. Like, I'm married, I have a family. Like, I'm actually of the opinion, like, now my life is really just beginning. Like, now I'm going on the up and up. We can have more kids. It's a beautiful thing. Like, my life is almost just beginning, where it's like, if you are the single girl boss, your life is kind of ending at that point. And it's so disappointing to see that they don't realize that it didn't have to be this way.
So
for them,
with greater, I think all of you are probably have heard of greater male variability hypothesis. Are you familiar? So if we look at the strength chart, actually, it's pretty interesting. You can see that the median male strength, it's wider than female strength.
Mm-hmm.
So greater male variability hypothesis is that there are more failure men, but there are more exceptional men. Right. And women tend to be more average.
We cluster around the mean.
Well, so think about what this means for entering the marketplace. You want to be the girl boss. You want to be the CEO. If you look at grip strength, which is not an indicative, doesn't necessarily correlate specifically with capability to run a company, look at the guys in the high end, which are triple the median grip strength, the highest end of guys. There's 500 Fortune 500s. There are 330 million Americans. Mm-hmm. Let's say there's 150, let's say there's 80 million adult males. Mm-hmm. Only 500 will be top CEOs.
Yeah.
That means the girl boss who is in her late 20s, entering her 30s, and thinks, I want to be the CEO, not the mom, has to compete with the highest.
Literally anyone can start a business. This is not a good argument. Literally anyone can start a business. Anyone can be. I was a girl boss working for myself by myself when I started my own business over 10 years ago. Like, it's not that hard. If you want to be a girl boss, guess what? One of the best ways to be a girl boss is just to work for yourself and to be a solopreneur. And there are a million ways to do it. And guess what? You don't have employees that you're responsible for. You don't have salaries to pay. You can farm stuff out. You can hire assistants. You can do virtual assistants on the internet. You can go on Fiverr, get people to do stuff for you. You can do a lot of stuff with free tools if you want to. Like, really, all you need to do to learn to do a business in most cases is learn how to make sales calls. And yeah, sales calls suck. I hate doing sales calls. It's like the worst goddamn thing. I always hated that more than anything else. I still hate it today. But that's like literally all, like, it's not hard. It's just something that might be uncomfortable and anyone can learn how to do it. So this is not a good argument, Tim.
End of the male capability spectrum,
Right.
which tends to be due to greater male variability hypothesis. There's going to be 10,000 male geniuses of insane strength fighting each other, and there's going to be 100 females. That means the
Hang on, we got a super chat from Mac B. I argue they are making a toxic argument against entrepreneurship. Well, I mean, if you're telling people that the only way to be a boss is to go work for someone else, they are making a toxic argument against entrepreneurship. I mean, they're basically saying it's not valid. It's like what the communists were trying to do to me when I had them on the channel a couple weeks ago. Like, the communists were like, did you ever turn a hobby into a job? I was like, yeah, that's my merch store. That's like literally my merch store. They're like, ha ha ha, you sell t-shirts. Ha ha ha, silly person, you only sell t-shirts. I'm like, so what? So what? I made 5 figures selling t-shirts last year that are print on demand, that I make the designs with AI art, and then I fuck around with it in Canva a little bit, and then I upload it to the store, and then I market it on the internet, and it became a whole other line of like revenue. And that's only growing.
likelihood of you seeing a Fortune 500 CEO female is going to be very, very low unless we pass DEI laws.
Can I ask a question? I don't know if this is a dumb question, but why does grip strength have to do with CEOs?
It doesn't.
Grip strength?
That's why I said this is not a direct correlation.
Oh,
between
okay. That's why I was confused. I'm like, what is that?
But it tends to be this way in a lot of
fine.
where
Yeah.
even
This
the
is- real
exceptional
quick.
men are so far ahead of everybody else that
Right,
it's
right,
like,
okay,
come
fine.
on.
This is simply an example of
Yeah,
greater
okay,
male
okay.
variability. It does not correlate with CEOs.
Yeah.
It's an example of how in grip strength, almost all women cluster right at the same point, but men, look at this.
I think IQ is similar.
Yeah, IQ is similar. Again, women are more clustered around the mean,
Right.
so their curve is looking more like this. Men look like this, so
Yeah.
you're going to have dumber men for sure,
I don't
but you're also
believe
going
it.
to have way
I don't
smarter
believe
men.
it.
But
Sorry.
What do
I
you
know.
mean?
I don't.
No,
I just look at life outcomes. I know all the academics will say this science is proven, whatever.
You got to trust the science,
But
bro.
look, I'm sorry. I have to believe what's in front of my eyes. I've interviewed 1,000 men, 1,000 women. Women make way dumber life choices. Way like you won't convince me otherwise.
Probably some of the dumbest life choices you could make would be the ones that lead you to be homeless.
I would like the receipts on Pearl interviewing 1,000 men and 1,000 women, because I don't believe that at all.
Homeless are
Okay,
overwhelmingly
yeah.
men.
Oh, let's talk about the homeless.
Well,
Actually,
wait, wait. I gotta address your point. I gotta address your point. You said women make worse life choices. I'd say a man who married a woman who divorced him and took his stuff made a poor life choice.
That's true. People make their own decisions, responsible for their own actions.
Yeah, I think the equivalent of that would be if I get into a contract with you and you're paid to fuck me over, steal my kids, and take my money.
Yeah, you screwed up. That's your fault.
Right. So then men shouldn't get married by that logic. So
Don't get married unless you're absolutely sure you know what you're doing.
Or have children by
And-
that logic, because women are always paid and they're paid to leave.
Well, I mean, I'm going to push back on the idea
but I
that
want
women
to.
are paid to leave,
I actually want
if
to.
you're married to like a rich guy, you are better off if you're just interested financially. You have access to greater resources by staying married.
But
No,
what is
but
your
that's not- but
argument
that's
that
not-
men
but
should
that's
get
not-
married anyway, even if they risk divorce?
No. My argument is that men should pick for themselves, but I would never downplay the risk of marriage, and I think it could happen to anyone.
Yeah, poor life choice.
Even a good
If they're
woman,
watching your show and they believe what you're saying, they made a dumb choice.
all right, rude, but
That's true. That's your point.
even a good woman, sometimes women in their 20s change. So they might say one thing in their 20s, and then their 30s and 40s they might switch. Look at
So men shouldn't get
conservative.
married.
Look at conservative comment. No, because they are still incentivized to leave.
Right,
And
so
as
men
long
shouldn't
as-
get married.
Oh wait, should or shouldn't?
Shouldn't.
Well, I'm saying men should pick for themselves, but I would never downplay that risk. But I want to go.
If they're going to listen to everything you just said and then choose to get married, they made a poor life choice.
I'm not saying it's good or bad. I am saying that from a contractual standpoint, it would not be a contract that favors them.
Right. So the point is, if your argument is the system is weighted against you,
Correct.
you can get divorced, then the logical thing a smart man could do is not get married and have kids.
Yeah, if they wanted to.
I got a super chat coming in from Amelia. Thank you, Amelia. I don't know when Tim started sprinting through complicated sounding theories to sound smart, but man, it's a drag. I like that they didn't know why he brought up grip strength. Yeah, what the fuck? Like, Tim just needs to sit there and be quiet. I agree. Thank you, Amelia.
Contract that favored them. Yes.
Right.
But I want to go back to the homeless. And the problem you get with a lot of this stuff is that there's not a lot of studies put into men's issues. So a lot of times what you see with the data is you're not getting the full picture, because most studies that are funded, it's for women, and the government is run by feminists. So there's a guy, he's out of Michigan. His name's Terrence Pop, really, really smart guy. And he actually followed 1,800 divorces in Michigan. And what he did was he found the reason for the divorces, and he actually followed a lot of those men to homeless shelters. And he found that if he goes to homeless shelters, 70% of the men owe child support. A lot of men are become homeless because of the system.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but that's my
And
point.
men are-
but but the way you're painting it is like, oh, if they're homeless, that's just a poor life choice.
But I mean,
And,
from
like,
from
If
your
you're
own
becoming
logic,
homeless,
if
it's a poor
you
life choice.
have sex with a guy who knocks you up then leaves, that's a poor life choice, right? These are all, we can say, poor life choices to some degree that gets you there. Doesn't absolve the other person of responsibility either, but you are ultimately at least a little bit culpable for the
I'm not
situation
saying
you find
they're not
yourself in.
culpable, but what I'm saying is that he shouldn't have to be enslaved for 18 years to a woman because he made a poor life choice. And there's no female equivalent of that.
I mean,
No, because the woman can
being-
always put the guy on child support for the most part.
having to raise a child that perhaps you did not want in single motherhood, some women would say that that would be being enslaved.
she still has the choice to abort. And adoption as well. You know, there's a case in Utah where a woman wanted to give up her son for adoption. The husband wanted it. He wanted to raise. He said, "Please let me raise." He had no rights. The kid's gone.
Do you think women should be drafted?
I think as long as we can vote, we should be drafted. I think it's better that we didn't vote.
Agreed.
But I think if
Yeah.
you're going to give women the freedom, like as long as we have the freedom, give them the responsibility that comes with it. Or you
No
can opt
one
out.
should be drafted.
I talked to Vivek Ramaswamy about this a year ago. He doesn't really stand in this position today, but it was a brilliant idea. He said, maybe it should be, if you want to vote, you have to sign up for the selective service.
Service through citizenship.
So this doesn't mean you will be drafted, because we haven't had a draft in 50 some odd years. It just means that men and women both would have to say, I am willing to fight when the need arises, and then you're allowed to vote. What would happen? Overwhelmingly, liberals would no longer vote, and
Right.
women would no longer vote.
Yeah.
Right. But that's why you also have to get rid of the 19th Amendment, because I don't know if you guys saw this, but Sheetz, Tim, we're getting into this. So Sheetz, it's this like kind of gas station company. They're actually
That's
being
never gonna happen.
taken to court by a federal agency for discriminating against Black applicants. Why, you might say? Well, it turns out part of their screening process is they do a background check on applicants, and they don't want people who have a criminal background. Sounds reasonable enough. But what the government found was that Black applicants were actually being ruled out of the running for jobs at a higher rate than white or Hispanic applicants.
What does that have to do with the 19th Amendment?
No, it's the Civil Rights Act, right?
Oh,
So basically, the federal agents are actually acknowledging that perhaps this discrimination was not purposeful, right? They weren't trying to discriminate against Black people, but still, because the outcome was inequitable toward Black people, they were still running afoul of the Civil Rights Act, which prevents discrimination
need to get rid of
based
that. I
on,
agree with
like,
that.
immutable characteristics. So I am in favor of service through citizenship, but the reason why the 19th Amendment is a problem with that is that if it were to be the case that there was some sort of metric for service for voting, and it happened that women were disproportionately not represented, I could see they would absolutely make the
Right.
case that that requirement was running afoul of the 19th Amendment because the outcomes were unequal. Yeah.
does everybody agree to get rid of the 19th? Is that what
Yes.
you're?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
What are
Wow.
your reasons for it, Pearl?
That
That's
women should
never
vote because we
going
don't
to
do equal
happen.
work. So I think if we're not running the infrastructure, if we're not in the military like men are, and we're not paying taxes like men are, I don't think that we should vote.
Or dying on oil rigs.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's basically like women aren't contributing enough to society in the same ways with like the taxes and stuff like that.
Have
I
you?
mean, I think I think that men are more capable than women by
I
and
mean-
large, like as a group. But
This is truly and sincerely one of the stupidest arguments that conservatives make. And the proof of that is in this video, because Pearl was ranting earlier about how there are more women and women make up the majority of people who vote, and that's just the way it is, and you can't change it. So the most of the people who vote are going to be women. And then in the same goddamn sentence, you're advocating to repeal the 19th Amendment. Do you want to lose every election for the rest of your life? I don't know. Where is Nick? I've been waiting for Nick's shows to start. I've been waiting for it, bro. I have Rumble up. He said he was going to go live on Rumble like 3 hours ago. I don't fucking own him. Where is he? Someone go wake him up. Actually, I'm probably going to be going to bed pretty soon, but like, it is the stupidest thing in the world. You're literally telling women not to vote for you. And by the way, amending the Constitution is a long and arduous process that is never, ever, 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 ever going to happen. So now, not only are we proposing something that has no hope of ever happening ever, but in the process of proposing something that will never happen, you are turning off the majority of voters from ever voting for you again. This is truly and sincerely one of the stupidest things that conservatives argue for. It's like, literally, just don't say it. Because every single time you say it, you are creating more Democrat voters. And they're not coming back. Oh. Well, I want to know why Nick's not live on the internet right now. He said he was going to do a show. I agree, though. He should also be on Tim Pool's show. I agree.
I was trying to think about how you could apply it to today, because I don't think today you could just say women shouldn't vote. I mean, I do like the t-shirts. Go get them at the audacitynetwork.com. They're funny t-shirts, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think the only way you'd limit female vote.
But I guess I want to know, like, I want to get to your reasoning why.
Because I think if you're going to have a say in the policies, you need to have some skin in the game.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to be running the infrastructure. You need to be a net I mean, I think only 20% of people are net taxpayers anyway.
Very small, yeah.
Yeah. I think maybe own land. You know, we could go back and forth about what exactly
I
you would
own property.
need to require in order to vote, but I think you have to have
Women
some
own
skin in the
property
game.
too,
Otherwise,
Carl.
you're just going to keep voting for benefits.
Net
So-
taxpayer, real quick, just so everyone understands, something like only 43% of people pay taxes because the
Yeah.
rest are on, like, they don't reach that threshold.
Right.
But of that 43, many are receiving more in government benefits than they actually
So they're
pay.
Yes.
still not net
I
taxpayers.
like the net taxpayer for
Yeah,
vote
yeah.
argument.
So continuing on that, do you also support repealing the 15th Amendment?
You have to remind me what the 15th
Do you
Amendment
think
is. I'm sorry, go
It's
ahead.
basically like the 19th, but for Black people.
So it says the rights of citizens in the U.S. to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the U.S. or by any state on account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude.
I don't think so, but I don't know. I haven't really thought about it. Is that what you think?
Well, I'm for like service guaranteeing citizenship, and I don't think being a woman should give you the right to vote. I think the same thing applies to race. And if we were to, do something like net taxpayer, property owner, etc., or even like married households, Black people would be disproportionately underrepresented like women would be. So if the 15th Amendment is on the books, you're also going to have discrimination that way. So that's why I'm asking why exactly.
I got an
You're
idea.
saying by that they would claim discrimination if we passed those policies.
Yeah.
Well, then I guess by that logic, it seems like that would make sense too. But I don't really know.
I think I figured out the problem. I think the 28th Amendment, the right to vote shall be, or voting shall be granted only to those who have 2 children or more and are actively in the lives of those children. Now, how you make that legal? The
for
general idea is
fuck's
you gotta have
sake,
2 kids
Tim.
and you gotta be actively
Shut
parenting them, or they
up.
must be adults,
Shut
and then you're allowed to vote.
up.
No, I still think military members should be able to vote.
And military
think-
members,
yeah,
I
think-
agree with that.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
Or like men that have very big like tax, like, like if Jeff Bezos didn't, does he have kids? I don't I don't
I don't
know.
know. I
But I'm saying like big companies like that, I think it would be fair that they
I
would
think
vote.
I think all of these things together make sense. Like
Yeah.
the idea that someone can show up and when I think it was 2020, Andrew Yang said he was going to move to Georgia, end of 2020. So he's going to move to Georgia to help who was it, Warnock or whatever, and I can't remember the guy's name, in Georgia win. It's like you don't live there and you're going to go to their state and vote on how they should be represented is insane.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's because in this country, voting is no longer about winning an argument and deciding on how your side should be run. It's about collecting pieces of paper with names on them. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a little bit of a different take on women voting, even service and these other things. Like even my husband will say, maybe if they're willing to do like years of service or something, I would still say no based on the argument that the anti-suffragettes made, which was that if you as a woman cannot protect persons or property, if you're not going to be defending the homeland, if you're not going to be defending your home, why should you be voting? And the reason is like this kind of lends itself to the bigger conversation of why do we have this idea that women were historically oppressed? Were they actually oppressed? If you go back and read their writings at the time in the
She
17th,
is one of the
18th, 19th
stupidest
century,
people on the
they said,
internet.
no, we're privileged. And then you'll hear a feminist say something like, oh, but they couldn't have bank accounts. But they never tell you why. They never tell you why women didn't have bank accounts or credit cards. And it's because legally, women cannot be held responsible for supporting the family.
And you see all
They
this
couldn't
debt we
be
have
held-
now.
They couldn't
It's
be
like going
held.
too
Yeah,
well.
women could not accrue debt that way.
Yeah.
And what would be the point of a woman owning a bunch of land if she can't make the land produce anything? She can't defend the land against people who might come and try to take it. There were practical reasons for these things. It wasn't just the evil patriarchy trying to keep women down. And I think those things still apply. Even with modern warfare, you have drone technology. We just talked about guns and how even with guns, men are much better with them than women are. They're just
wrong.
loading, reloading. Anytime you're in a
Wrong.
combat situation, men are going to be better. Why would we want to task women with defense of persons and property? So why would we want to grant them voting
I would be
rights?
so
I would
pissed
never
if I called the
lower
cops and they
myself.
sent me a female cop.
Absolutely
I would be
not.
so
No,
If there's a
no,
natural
no, no,
disaster,
no.
there's like a huge hurricane that takes out the entire southeast, right? And the power's out.
You have a
and there's
female
flood.
firefighter.
Yeah, nobody's like, oh, send
Well,
the
I'm an
feminists.
athlete. I'm
Please
6
send
foot.
the
I'm like, I'm
feminists.
taller than most. What are you gonna
Yeah.
do that I can't do?
Right. But
So I wanted to bring up your Nala video. What did I do that was so wrong about Nala?
Well, so I
I wanted to talk about this whore.
Yeah. So, this is a thing where we brought it up when I was talking to Andrew, Rachel's husband. You can find him at The Crucible, I believe is his channel. So basically, I am of the belief that if you are a new convert, you should not be in any type of leadership position at a church, especially as a woman, like pastor. No,
I mean, women should never have any leadership role in the
Oh,
church.
the only
Yeah,
to begin with.
that's a
ever.
red
Okay.
flag.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Basically,
the
if you're
only-
going to
no,
church
I
and
know
it's like, this is the female
So
pastor.
we'd agree.
Well, hang on. But so I don't disagree with everything you said about
Okay,
her. But basically, you had some tweets saying like Jesus won't save these hoes. And I think it's reasonable to be skeptical. And you were kind of digging on whether Nala is or is not still engaging.
She
and
raised her
stuff.
OnlyFans prices after this is confirmed. She raised her OnlyFans prices after she was saved.
Right.
I
Now-
think anything from that, she's full of shit.
Yeah. So I'm not here to. I support you trying to keep her accountable. I don't think that's a bad thing.
Then why
But
did I
guess
get
it's
a
the
30-minute video on me?
Well,
Then
it wasn't.
why did I don't know? It's
It
20
wasn't.
minutes.
It wasn't
I
30
didn't-
minutes
I didn't
just
watch the
on you. I
whole
was
thing.
going through a
got
bunch of tweets.
Classic
but-
woman exaggerating the number.
but the idea
Sorry, I'm
is,
still a woman.
Yeah, what can you do?
do you think it is possible for Christ to save someone like
it's
Nala?
possible, but I need some evidence. I need some evidence that you've done something before we put her on a show and say this woman is saved, because it's going to deter people from Christianity in the long term. If men, see they're putting OnlyFans whores as preachers in churches now. Sorry, I don't know if that's going to affect YouTube, but and so I think
But
when
do you-
someone's clearly full of shit, we got to call them out on it.
Do you not see that there could be kind of a middle ground where we say, hey, it is amazing you've come to Christ. Let us encourage you in your walk with a new Christian, while also like simultaneously not saying, hey, let's make this person our preacher.
Would you let a reformed pedophile buy kids in church? They said sorry. Would you let him buy the kids?
By the kids?
By the kid.
Near
Would you
the
let them in
kids.
the church freely? A reformed pedo?
No, I don't think you can be a reformed
So why
pedophile.
are we bringing a reformed hoe who said she wanted to sleep with married men and loved to get them to cheat around married men? No, you put them in the back of the church. You say, why don't you show us that you actually put your money where your mouth is, do some work, and then come back?
I don't have a problem with that either. If
so
that's
then I shouldn't have got this video.
Well, you said Jesus can't save these hoes. That's the issue, right?
Yeah, they have to. They have
welcome the
They
skepticism.
have to save them. They have to at least delete the
She is the most
OnlyFans.
annoying
people say she
person
has deleted it
on
now.
Okay,
the
so she
internet.
deleted it the day before the
Listen.
Michael Knowles interview.
Listen. Please, please, please let Nick Fuentes be smart enough to not have invited Pearl to AFPAC. Please. I know they're friendly. I know that Nick likes her. I know that Nick's been on her show. Nick had a great interview on her show. I know that she likes Nick. Please, 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 God, protect me from having to be around Pearl at AFPAC. Because I really think I might cancel. I really think that might just be a bridge too far. I just don't know if I can do it. Lauren Witzke's already going to be there. That hypocrite asshole is going to be there. There are already so many people that are going to be at AFPAC that I don't want to be in the same room with, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to put on my big girl pants and go because I want to experience it for myself and I want to see what it's like. And I think that Nick is an interesting shit stirrer and I want him to continue to stir shit. And there are legitimately people there that I do want to see and that I do want to meet. But I cannot. Please keep Pearl the fuck away from AFPAC. Please.
She was saved in December. She had 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. She raised her prices and didn't delete it till the day before. And then I'm still finding Telegram chats. And then the women, it's
those, and I don't know if those look legit.
So but my point is, what you should make sure that all your shit's at least down before you come out and start preaching if you really gave a shit.
It's definitely sketchy, I would say. And I think the problem is with conservatives, like so eager and desperate to find anyone that could potentially be on their side now. Like you see Bill Maher, for instance.
Yeah.
If Bill Maher, he's clearly a liberal, he'll say
So
free speech is
true,
good, woke
Isabella.
bad. Conservatives are like, this is our guy, even though he's like a Trump
So
hater, clearly not
true.
conservative, a liberal.
He's just not super woke.
But
Right,
but
we're
it's
just so
funny.
desperate. So that's why Nala was propped up by everyone.
But I want to show what's happens because this happens in churches all the time. Right now, you make a video defending an OnlyFans
Look,
chick,
this
but
slide
Crowder
looks
couldn't
like
get
my
the benefit of the
background.
doubt.
It looks like
I
the
know,
background.
I've known Crowder for a long time. Like that's a different
Yeah,
issue.
but I
don't know
but we
Nala.
all know what she did on the internet. She was getting tag teamed by 2 dudes
And
8
that's
months
awful.
ago.
I think-
I think
awful.
you should use her. I think the idea that it whether or not she's truly formed is immaterial to the fact that she's become a propaganda tool for virtue.
Yeah, but why would you want her to do that if she's going to go back later?
And-
What evidence, and this is why you have young men. I know you said some young men are going to Orthodox, but by and large, men are leaving the church.
It's,
Right,
and if you talk,
they're
she
leaving the
doesn't go
woke
back-
churches and they're going back to the really traditional, like the Roman Catholic Latin Mass, the Eastern
Yeah.
Orthodox, the really traditional, like Lutherans or Baptists are seeing.
You have to
Mormon.
make it more profitable for her to stay as a reformed individual. So if the issue is an OnlyFans hooker comes out and says, I am reformed, I've seen the light. And then prominent people say, we will never accept you, screw you. She goes, there's no light for me. I can't live this way.
she's
Right,
like,
that's
"No,
right.
I'm
Tim is right.
saying do some work. Anything. My God, could you go to a convent? I mean, she was getting tag teamed by 2 dudes.
Tim is correct. Amelia, real question. Why does the right still give a fuck about Nala? I don't get how this is. It's not. She's a material. Who cares? It's another one of those things. It's like, well, I mean, like I think who said it? I think it's actually Isabella. This was a good point that she made, and I'm really kind of upset we're not hearing more from her, to be honest, because she's really funny. But like Isabella said, The right likes to grasp onto anyone that they can lift up as a symbol and use to shill a political narrative. And you want to get a bunch of like conservative Christians hard or wet, I suppose, as the case may be. You give them a porn star that converted to Jesus. There is nothing that the right likes more than a heathen converting to Jesus. So that's why they give a fuck. Now, is she still like this? Probably isn't gonna. I think we can all acknowledge this, right? She's going to go back and do OnlyFans. It's probably the only thing she knows how to do. She made millions of dollars doing OnlyFans. There is no way in this universe she's not going back to OnlyFans. She's not that smart, okay? But she does have $1 million cushion to last her a little bit, or multi-million-dollar cushion to last her a little while. But it's like no one really cares about any of this stuff. All right, we're gonna watch for a few more minutes, then I'm going to bed because it's 3 a.m.
So 8 months ago. So it's like, okay, could we send her to, I don't know, some
Yes.
missionary or something?
And so the response from the right should be like, wow, that's
I don't know.
The
Keep her
response,
away from the
yes.
married men. You
The
want to
response-
find your
the
husband?
response should be-
we judge them by their works.
Well,
I think
the-
our response
the-
should be, we accept you, but let us see the fruit of Christ within your life. And I think,
Right.
people have been critical about, well, all the millions that you've made essentially leading young men to sin. I think it would be a great show of faith if she were to do something with that money.
Exactly.
Whether it be
Right.
a charitable
be
to a
great.
church donation, something like that, maybe even specifically a men's organization, because that's the group that she was predating on and exploiting.
And what you're
Right.
communicating to young women is you can do whatever you want, say sorry, and here's your media
Yeah,
career.
that is the
Have fun.
Catholic
Yeah.
Church. That's right. You can go and ask for forgiveness, and if you truly mean it, it is
And
granted
then
to you.
and then
But
you
we should be
get-
advocating for
and-
women to try to change their lives,
I-
right?
I-
I agree. It's
Well,
fake,
I don't have a problem with women changing their lives. What I find offensive actually is using Christianity as a grift.
I
And
totally
that's
agree.
and I just find that offensive.
Except
and-
that, yeah, and I agree with you,
Yeah.
but I would say if people begin to believe that the better grift is not in being a hooker, but being
Yeah.
a Christian, that's winning the culture war.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's true.
and
That's
I think
never
you could
going to
argue
happen.
that, but those women tend to be so damaged, they tend to do the same thing. And what you see over long periods of time is now you have predatory women in the church.
No, I agree.
And
I
then
agree.
oftentimes young men that don't know better end up marrying these chicks.
And so I would agree with you on that, Patsy. I'm just saying, at the very least, her attempt at this grift, if it is a grift, shows that she believed the right side of history, and the profitable side of history is virtue, not degeneracy. It doesn't mean she's not a degenerate. It just means she's being like, ooh, there's more money over here. That's a good sign.
My argument is I think it's funny how conservatives given
My argument is that I think the porn star probably believes that she had a real conversion. However, she at some point, when she's not the darling anymore, is gonna find out that a lot more people feel like Pearl does than want to actually support her, and then she's gonna hide a lot of people in her face saying, you're not saved, you're not saved, you're not saved, you're a whore, you're a whore, you're a whore, you're a whore. And a lot of people are gonna be saying that to her at some point, and they already are, but it's only gonna escalate as she kind of like starts to disappear from the media spotlight or whatever. And at some point that's probably going to get to her, because quite frankly that sucks. When all you hear all day every day is you're a whore, you're a whore, you're a whore, you're a whore, you're Jesus hates you, you'll never be like, if that's all you hear all day every day, at some point she's going to go, I was literally making millions of dollars on OnlyFans, and I was having a great time, and people treated me well. And yeah, I was fucking for money on the internet, but I made millions of dollars, and people were really nice to me, and they treated me well. And I'm over here, and I'm like, I'm trying to be a good Christian. I did what they wanted me to do. I went to church. I shut down my OnlyFans. I did the things. I did all the interviews. I tried to spread the good word of Jesus and all this stuff. And all they did was call me a whore over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And it just seems like I'm never going to be able to be what they want me to be, because I already did this. So why aren't I just going back and doing this? I think that that's actually what's going to happen, because that's what the right does with everyone that they lift up as a political symbol. They spit them up, they chew them up and spit them out, and then they insult them over and over and over and over and over again for the path that they already walked. And it's like, well, you can't change the past. So it's like from their perspective, like you can't change the past. I can't change the fact that I did an OnlyFans, and you're just gonna hold that against me every single day for the rest of my life. And I could have that, or I could go back over here and make millions of dollars and be treated really well. Like, and the other thing too is like, if you're a new Christian, if you're coming into like the church and you are trying to be the very best Christian you can be, and all you're getting is the people in the church who are supposed to be Christians, who are supposed to be expressing Christ's love. And those good God-fearing Christians are going, whore, 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 whore. That doesn't really seem very Christ-like. And so now you kind of went from having this this situation where maybe you really did have this kind of like spiritual experience and you had a genuine religious conversion, but you find yourself amidst a group of people who are acting the opposite of really how a Christian should be acting. Like, let's just be honest. Lauren Chen would be an amazing mentor for that girl. Lauren Chen is not going to do that, right? Who that girl is going to be around are people who are going to go, whore, 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 because they're more loud. They're more loud. There are more of them. And so at some point she's going to go, this is what I gave up millions of dollars for. I thought we were supposed to be acting in the name of Jesus. I thought we were supposed to be doing his work. I thought we were supposed to be like, following the Bible and being good to each other and loving each other and forgiving each other. I thought we were supposed to be doing all that. And I just get called a whore every day. That's not Christian. That's not Christ-like. And so this group of Christians that I found myself in, that I gave up millions of dollars for, they're just shitting on me all the time. What am I doing? I'm going to go back over here where I'm going to make millions of dollars and people are going to treat me really well and they're going to buy me presents and I'm going to have nice things and I'm going to get to go out to all the things and I'm going to get all these men who love me. I'm going to have great sex because that's better than being on the other side and just being called a whore all the time. That's what's going to happen. All right. It's past 3 a.m. I'm going to bed. We made it through a good bit of this, though, but I feel like we've gotten the basic mise en scène. Thank you guys for hanging out with me tonight. I really do appreciate it. Please do mount the like button on the way out the door. I will see you at 6 p.m. today, I guess, for Socialism Saturday. Take care, guys. Have a good night. We'll see you soon. Bye.